All right, how we doing? I'm thinking that we're live. Oh, looks like I just got notifications. I gotta check the sound on this, make sure that we're live over here. Welcome everybody. Share this out if you are on here right now. Let me go over here and check on my phone, and then make sure that my sounds are turned off on my phone. Right? That would be bad, Bob. Right? How are you guys doing today? What is everybody up to? Let me check on TikTok here. I turned the sounds down, but I haven't gone to TikTok to find out what's going on here, right? Okay, let me see here. All right. Let me find out if I'm live and where we're live here. It should say that we're live. There we are. We're live right now. Looks like so is other people. All right, let me check my sound. And I got sound. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. Welcome in, right? Welcome in. Ask me your questions here. Do you guys want to get out of this matrix? I can tell you how to get out of this matrix. Let me make sure this is turned down enough here. It was still online, right? Tap on that screen for me so we can get some more people in here, people, right? Welcome in. How's everybody doing today? I haven't been live for almost a month now, about 3 weeks since I was live last. I apologize for that, right? For those of you who are American around the world, happy birthday, America. Today is the 6th over here in Australia, 5th of July. I was not live. I had things to do on the weekend. Welcome in. Make sure you send this on to your friends and family that might be interested in figuring out how to get out of this matrix. You guys want to figure out how to get out of this matrix, right? I can tell you how to get out of here. It's actually very easy. It's easier than you think it is. It's just you don't know it because they're not letting you see it. Okay. They're putting things away from your eyeballs so that you can't see it by distracting you into looking at other things so that you don't know how to get out of this matrix. You're stuck in a matrix that you created for yourself, by the way, not some puddle jumping third dimensional aliens. All that stuff they tell you about Anunnaki is a lie. You can go to my Facebook page, Leonard O'Neill, my Facebook page, and you can see, right? You can see my name right down here. This is the book that I wrote, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. There's my name, Leonard O'Neill. Look me up on Facebook. You'll see the Merlin and Maeve. You'll see me as the avatar with my wife, but you'll see this picture as the background on my page so you know that it's me. Go there and there's a link so you can see that there's actual people around the world that know the actual translation of that word Anunnaki. I have a video that's pinned to the top of my page where you can click on it. It takes you right to an interview at the exact point where they're talking about the translation of that word Anunnaki that you think of. And I also wanted to point out that last year, which there was a timeline shift just recently, by the way, but last year, so Mandela effects are going to be happening, but don't trust the guys online because everybody's lying about Mandela effects because there's so many of you out there that are actually aware of them and remembering them. So now people are doing that with everything. They're like, oh my God, I had one of these in the cupboard and now there's two of these in the cupboard. And everybody's hitting on it and thinking it's a Mandela effect. I only bought one of these and now there's two. That's not a Mandela effect. That's me wanting clickbait for you guys to click on. Right. And everybody falls for it. And they're like, oh my God, that's so crazy that you only had one of those. And now there's two. Right. Anybody could just say that. I could pick any item up and go, I swear I only had one of these. And then in my pocket, I had another one. Right. So that's crap. But I want to point out that about a year ago, right, there was a debate with some people online. I don't know that I should get involved in names, but, I was noticing that a certain word wasn't used in a debate about religion, reality, and the creation of the world. And that word was Anunnaki. All of a sudden, those people forgot to use that word when they're talking about what's going on and talking about the Nephilim and talking about the creation of the human condition. When they're not talking to Bible scholars, now remember that I am a theologian and a minister of 4 different religions. Okay, so I'm not coming in talking to you from the standpoint of just some guy who is on, thinks the earth is flat, and I have proof you can't tell the earth is flat because you can't see it. Because everything you have to look through has got a dome on it, and so it makes you think that the earth is flat or make it round, but it's actually flat. Well, that's a lie too. Even the guy who is the creator of your little movement knows that that's a lie, and he got exposed on camera. So you should look into that. Okay, so everybody says Anunnaki created the human condition until they're talking to an actual scholar, a historian, or a theologian, and then they leave that word miraculously out of their vocabulary. You should look into that. And you should ask those very same people who tell you the word Anunnaki means those from the heavens came. and have them talk to an Assyriologist or a theologian or a historian and see how quickly they drop that word Anunnaki out of their vocabulary and go, no, Nephilim, because that word's actually in the Bible and it doesn't mean aliens. And they're like, well, it means giants. It actually at that time didn't mean giants either. It meant like ruffians, brigands, pirates, bad guys. Especially in the Bible when they were talking about it, when they were saying, oh no, there's Nephilim there. That word didn't mean that. So you have to realize that depending on how you're interpreting a word in what language, like some of you out there are getting stuck on this Joshua, Yahshua. Yahshua, Jesus is not his real name. His name is Yahshua. And those words are the same. They're the exact same word. One is a Greek translation, a Latin translation of a Greek word, and the other one is Aramaic of that same Greek word. So it's just a translation into another language, and then it was said wrong. Okay, so it actually comes up as Yeshuas in the Greek. Okay, Yeshuas, and then we with a Latin influence, because English is Latin influenced. Okay, like 25 to 30% of English comes from Latin. And then the rest of it comes from other Latin groups, and then the last 60% is Norwegian, right? German comes from the same. So Middle English is almost German, and then it goes back to Norwegian, right? I speak 28 languages, so there's a reason I know that. Okay, so literally, you have to realize that the way you say a word or where you get a word from changes that. So everyone's like, his name really wasn't Jesus, it was Yahshua. Those actually are the same words. It's just spoken differently. Here's an example for you, and I use this one because my name is Leonard. Okay, my name is Leonard, Leonard, is a Middle German word. The last part, the nard, is a Middle German word, and then Leo is an ancient Greek word. You put those two together, and it means Leonard. Right? Some people would pronounce it Leonard because of the way it looks, depending on where they're from, or Leonardo. Leonardo would be the Latin influence of the word. The French, the Italian, the Spanish would be Leonardo for my name. Leonidas, if you're Greek, like the King Leonidas from the 300. Okay, his name was Lionheart, just like mine. Okay, so there's other examples. Here's another example, the word lion. Okay, the word lion, the Greeks invented the word, and it was Leo, L-E-O. We have the constellation of Leo. Leo means Leo the lion. Okay, so the word Leo was translated into Italian. First it was Latin, then it went to French. And the French say Lion, right? Lion. But the way they spell it, because it's nasally, they spell it L-I-O-N. Sound familiar? That's where we got our English version of the spelling, but we English don't say lion, do we? We say lion. So we actually translated their word wrong into English as we started evolving into this version of the language, and now we say lion. And that means that thing, but that is the word lion spelled in French, lion for Leo, and it means lion. So we get this word lion that actually comes from a French translation of an Italian word from the Greek word Leo. Okay, so you have to realize these things when people are on the internet. They're looking at you like you're clickbait. Okay, and all they're trying to do is distract you away from the truth by confusing you and getting you to argue over things like Jesus' name was Yahshua, not Jesus. That's just a translation into the words that you're speaking in English, and it comes out Jesus. Okay, so depending on how the words were translated, and if you don't know anything about language, then you don't understand how words are translated when they're written down. If I said to you the word run and pulled that out of a book and said to you the word in this book is run, and then in your mind you're going to come up with one of the 150 variations of what that word means. Okay, you're going to put that into your brain. Now, what if you said the word run in the sentence was to run down the street? Okay, to lope down the street. That's actually the most of the Viking countries' word for run is lope, lopa, lope. So we use that word in English to saunter, to walk slowly. Okay, so what if you thought that meant run down the street, and the sentence was, I'm going to go and run this machine. All of a sudden, you're thinking they're going to take off running down the street with this machine, right? Because you're getting the wrong translation. That's the problem with what's going on. Okay, part of that, let's get back to the task at hand. Ask me how to get out of this matrix. You guys want to learn how to get out of this matrix? Hang around for a minute. You might learn something and I'll get you out of here. It's actually very simple. It's about nutrients, and it's about your focus. Your focus determines your reality, and whether or not you have the right nutrients going to your brain will determine whether your brain shrinks and you get stupid and you stay stuck in this reality, or your brain actually gets bigger and it expands inside your head and you get smarter, and then you all of a sudden are not mind wiped, or you're not what's the word, Jedi mind tricked, right? Who did that? Thank you for that, Marcella. Everybody, make sure I can't say those words where you know, hand this off to video to another person because they might like it. If I say those words, the Chinese communists in charge here, who are afraid of words and want to control words, they don't like it when I do those words on the screen. Just like, if you do this and give me a heart, if I say that to you and say those words are forbidden on this platform of control. Okay, so if you guys want to get out of this matrix, it's actually kind of simple. Your focus determines your reality, and the first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. Think about those two things and what those mean to you, right? So firstly, you have to realize that you are in a trap, but it's a trap of the mind, not a trap of some puddle jumping third dimensional construct called Anunnaki, which that word didn't mean that at all, because the context of that word is not one single word. It's actually three words put together, two of them, Anunna, put together, and the word ki. Okay, but they're separate words. Just like if you guys know how to speak Japanese, you know what I'm talking about. Japanese, like I would say camera, right? We would say camera. In English, they say kamura, all together. So you have K-A, ka-mu, M-U or M-O with the little hyphen over it. Kamura. That's how they speak, right? So if you took those three words and jammed them together, but it wasn't supposed to say camera, kamura, it was supposed to say kamu, and then the word ra was supposed to be separate because it's belonging to the next word, but they were jammed together and there were no spaces, because here's a little note to file. Back in the ancient times, they didn't put spaces in between any of the words. And on that text, on that little teeny tablet, that is the Mesopotamian tablet that they have, where the word Anunnaki is written on, doesn't have one single space for the entire messaging. Okay, back in the Hebrew days, in the thousands of years ago, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, they used to write in Aramaic and in Yiddish, and coming forward, no spaces. They wrote everything with no spaces. If you look at the Talmud, the Hebrew Bible, there's no spaces unless it's translated into English. Okay, so you have to realize. Welcome in. What is that? Nord Wolf. I like that wolf. What's up, Nordic Wolf? Oh, what's up, brother? Nordic Wolf 1. Welcome in. Welcome in. Hopefully you didn't take off, right? That's a good name. So you have to realize that the context of translating something is going to tell you what that word means in the sentence that it's being used in. If you don't understand that language and you try to translate each word for word, it's going to be difficult and you're going to get it wrong. That's called lost in translation, right? You guys know those words. So if you don't realize the context that a word is being used in, you might get that word translated wrong, and you may not understand what it is that it's saying, okay? So in 1948, Zecharia Sitchin, who your ancient aliens people love that stuff, love Zecharia Sitchin, he wrongfully translated the word Anunnaki. The word was Anunnaki, and it did not mean aliens from outer space, okay? Then Giorgio Tsoukalos, working for History Channel for Disney, and his Prometheus program, he decided, because he needed to make money, that we had to have ratings for, thank you for that, thank you, Mr. Na, for that. They needed to have ratings, so he went with the whole theory, the entire ancient aliens theory. The only way they can tie that and say aliens were definitively here was, here's this tablet from ancient times that says the Anunnaki, and that means those from the heavens came. But that's not what he translated it first as. He translated it first as word for word the way Giorgio Tsoukalos translated it, and that was the god Anu came, which was also wrong because it wasn't talking about the god Anu. It was talking about the god Anuna, which was a completely different god that was here on Earth, not from outer space. Let's start with that, okay? So he said in 2012, and on History Channel's The Ancient Aliens, he said the god Anu came to Earth, and that was what hinged for the whole entire program to get you to believe that aliens came here. One of the biggest proofs. So then in 2015, 2012 going into 2015, they're losing ratings. So he translates it as those from the heavens came. And now it's an entire species of people coming down to earth. And that's what they've been running with for the last 10 years. The last 12 or 14 years, they've been running with those from the heavens came. And that they're literally aliens from another place. And then they're moving into, now they're the Nibiru. Now they're the Nephilim. They just, it's the same people who they were talking about, which is not even in fact a thing. Okay. They don't know what they're talking about. They're making it up. They know it. And they're distracting you because why? They are the very government agencies who are trying to keep you here in 3D. And they're making money. And you guys are paying them a lot of money. Okay. You're going to their alien cons. Most of those people used to work for the government. Well, they're all whistleblowers, bro. They're insiders telling us information. So the governments of the world have no idea that these guys who are all over television and going from town to town and popping up a tent like, praise Jesus, like they used to do in the old days. And they're literally going, the government doesn't want you to know about this. And we're going to all tell you the secrets. And the government has no idea that those guys are walking around telling you all this stuff, even though there's commercials all over television. And History Channel has a show that's been on the air and spinned off 5 different shows from that show about, we're going to give you a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the secrets from the guys who used to work for the government who show up and go, well, I can't tell you all that because I'm still under a contract with the government, but I can say these things. Wait, I'm sorry, what? You still work for the government, have a non-disclosure agreement to not tell me some things for that same government that you're supposedly informing on? Boy, and they know about it and they don't seem to care that you're doing it and they're not trying to unalive you? Why is that? Because they're still working for those people. You need to be aware of that. First step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. So how do we get out of here? How do we get off of this rock? You want to get out of here? You want to get off of this rock? It's actually very easy. Stop waiting for a government to tell you aliens exist. You don't need a government to tell you that aliens exist. They do, but not the way you think. Not that Anunnaki. They didn't come here and create the human existence because that was a complete lie. You can look it up. There are real people who really translated those words, and those words didn't say anything that those people say, and they're not paid off by the government. Simple-minded conspiracy theorists, well, they're the ones that are paid off by the government, and these guys are informing. Weird, because the guys who translated it aren't out there trying to tell you, I'm secretly informing you of the truth. But the other guys who are still working for the government, and we all know they're worked for the government, they're trying to tell you that they're telling you the truth. And what are they giving you? Nothing. They're giving you, wait here, there's a big bad, this is their agenda. There's a big bad alien group of people out there that are going to come and get you. So we need to break down all governments and have one world government. And who should be in charge of that world government? Should we have, Billy? Who should be in charge of that world government? I don't know. Maybe we should ask the authorities who are telling us this stuff. Who should be in charge of that one world government? I don't know, a centralized governmental system that rules the entire planet like the United Nations. You mean the United Nations that was created by that same very deep state who is actually trying to stop us from knowing that these aliens exist? Is that who it is, boys and girls? Oh, no, it can't be that same organization because these are the good guys. Weirdly, because the good guys that you claim are in this United Nations are, in fact, those same people from all those governments sitting with a representative in that United Nations. But hey, I digress. Let's go ahead and trust ourselves to the deep state of all the governments collectively, and we'll knock down all borders. So how do they keep their jobs? Oh, wait, now they're in charge of the entire planet, aren't they? Right? Okay, so think about that, right? They're not going to be happy till it's one world government. You're absolutely right, Smurfy. 100%. That's what their agenda is. So how are they trying to reach that? Well, they're trying to reach that by distracting you with the idea of you have to have some government, some authorities disclose to you that aliens are real. Otherwise, they're not real, are they? So I need the American government to tell me. Do I need the American government to tell me that this is a drawstring for my hoodie that's on the back of my head? I don't know what this thing is. You do realize that if you guys have ever been in philosophy, especially Philosophy 101, very first class of philosophy, that is literally the allegory of the cave. I'm sitting in a chair and I'm tied up, and there's people behind me and they have a fire going, and my head is facing forward and tied up forward to where I can't look around, and all I can see is the wall in front of me, and I'm seeing shadows from these people behind me. And that's all I'm doing is seeing their shadows moving around, and it's their shadows from the other side of the fire. So I'm seeing fire moving around and then shadows moving around with it and hearing strange noises. And I don't know what it is because I was never taught what it is. And I'm supposed to believe that I need those people to tell me the truth about reality. Do you understand that? The first step in avoiding their trap is knowing of its existence. Okay. So how do we get out of here? It's actually simpler than you think. They have been depriving you of simple nutrients that your brain needs so that your brain shrinks and you get dumber and your vibration gets smaller and lower and your abilities to think are not working properly and they're hindering you. And guess what? They're also keeping you emotionally between 11 and 14, maybe 16, 17, if you're lucky, years of age. How are they doing that? They're doing that by distracting you with the Jedi mind trick. These are not the droids you're looking for. Look over here. Swipe up, swipe left, swipe right, swipe up. That's what they're doing, for one. For two, they're lowering your nutrition. They're lowering things, key things that you need in your brain, okay? And it's not very difficult. And weirdly, do you remember back in 2020 when the thing came and they had that thing that was called the Jabberwocky something or other that they wanted you to take? Weirdly, all of that stuff actually does the same thing. It lowers the amount of nutrients that you have in your body, specifically in your brain. And they've been doing this for a very long time. Now, I don't have any proof of that right here on this show because I can't talk about that. But there's a guy, hold on, I got to pull up his name. There's a doctor who's a German doctor who wrote some books that you might be interested in looking up. Okay. His name is, hold on, it's Dr. Michael. Let me get you the spelling of his last name here, folks. You might want to get a pen and paper and write this down. Now, I'm not getting anything for this, so this is not an ad. I'm not working for that guy, and this is not an advertisement at all, TikTok. This is just me telling people about this guy who is a doctor. Where are my notes here? And, I put it on my other phone. Hold on. His name is, I thought I wrote it on that phone. I have two phones. I have an American phone and an Australian phone. Still because of that. So hold on, let me go over here. Maybe it was on there. I'll find it in a second. I apologize for taking so long to do that. Oh, I have a picture of him over here. Never mind. Let me get back over here. I took a screenshot, but I'm not going to show you the screenshot because I don't want TikTok to get annoyed with me for it. But I'm going to give you a name, okay? His name is Dr. Michael. Hold on. Dr. Michael. You know how to spell Michael? Michael. His last name is N as in Nancy, right? EHLS. Should look him up. He has a couple of books that he wrote, and he's been talking about some very interesting information that has to do with minerals that you should be taking, like, vitamin C and vitamin D and magnesium and a few other components, vitamin B13. I don't know if you guys know about that, right? So you should, I never did that either, right? The Smurf says, I never caught that. None of those jibber jabbers for me. Meanwhile, other ones in the house did. Yeah, right. I know a lot of people did that all around the world. But even if you did, it is reversible. But he actually was one of the people who came out in 2020 and said that stuff that was in there was actually a bioweapon. So you might want to look into his name and take a look at, thank you, Rose, for that. You might want to take a look at, he was just on Tucker Carlson. Don't know how you feel about Tucker Carlson and what your politics are, because I don't follow the religion of politics. But if you don't think that he's a lunatic, you should go on. Even if you do think he's a lunatic, he doesn't do much talking. That guy does. You should go on the TCN network or whatever, go on YouTube and look up Tucker Carlson. He's got a podcast. 3 days ago, he dropped the podcast with that doctor. It's an hour and a half or 2 hours or something. You should take a look at that and listen to what he's saying in there, because what we used to call vitamin B13 is, in fact, I don't know if I can say this word, so I'm going to say lif, and then, the separate word after that, put together as one word with the word put on there in a very small dose, not the doses that they give people who have bipolar, because they give them like thousands of milligrams, but 1 to 4 mgs per day actually changes a lot. But there also, you have to have no calcium in your brain case, so stop drinking things that are not calcium, but that have chloride in it, right? fluoride in it. You want to get fluoride taken out, so no fluoride in your toothpaste, right? No aluminum in your roll-ons or sticks, right? You need to stop doing that. You need to eat things. There's certain things that you need to have, like, and this is where during 2020 to 2024, things that were like vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, right? Those things they didn't want you taking because people were claiming that it did something for that thing that we went through back in 2020. Well, it turns out that's true for anything. Colds, flus, doesn't matter, right? And then there was another thing that starts with the word hydroxy, right? And then has that other word at the end of it that I can't say on this, because just saying, that word I just said could get me in trouble with this communist platform. Okay. So nutrition is important, and the things that you feed your brain with, okay? So that his book and his conversation that he had on that other network on I think it's on YouTube. It is. I just watched it on there. You should go and take a look at that doctor, Michael. I don't know how to say his last name. It's Neil, I think. Neil, Neh. What did I say it was? Nehls, Niels, I think. He's German, has a thick German accent. Wrote a couple of books, right? That's a good way to say it, right? Yeah, right. I mean, it is. This platform is owned by the Republic of China, the Communist Republic of China, right? And then if you're in America, it's now partially controlled by an American company. I'm in Australia, but if you're over in America, your app is mostly run by Americans now who didn't change anything about the communist words that they didn't want you to say. That's got to tell you something about those people that bought it. Okay, they're supposed to be your friends and good guys, but they did nothing. They just bought it so that they had access to the information that the Chinese government was collecting from this app. Okay, that's what they were mad about. Was everybody else sold them, like Facebook and YouTube and all of those people sold them the information that they collected off the app, but the Chinese government wasn't doing that. So the American government found a way to leverage them. We're going to make you lose 130 million people on your platform if you don't give us, basically, that what they wanted was your information, you, me, and everybody else. Okay, Peter, welcome, my brother. How you doing? I haven't talked to you since you got out of the hospital. I'm glad that you're on here saying hello. I see you're making a bunch of videos. I'm always trying to hit like on them on all the platforms, brother. Welcome in. Okay, so let's get back on point. How do we get out of this matrix? Oh, who gave me that rose? Who was that? Who is that? That's Eden something. You gave me that rose. Thank you, Eden. I didn't see that you did that. You gave me a bunch of them. Thank you very much for those roses. I hope you're still here. I hope you didn't get mad at me and leave because I didn't say anything. I apologize for that. I usually try to make sure I say thank you to everybody who does something like that and gives me gifts. Okay. So how do we get out of this matrix? It's actually pretty simple. It is your focus determines your reality. That's one thing, right? The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. Okay. Third, nutrition, brain nutrition. Okay. You need to feed your brain. Right? So, you are still here. Thank you for still hanging around. Thank you for that, Edens. And thank you for all those. I see at least 11. Let me scroll back up here and see how many you gave me. You gave me at least 11 there. So thank you for that, right? What else did you give me? You gave me a big heart. You gave me one of those big hearts. Bing, boom, boom. Thank you for that too. Okay. So how do you get out of this matrix? First of all, you need to know that it is a matrix, but it's not a matrix that is trapping you from third dimensional aliens. It's not. Okay, this is a matrix that the creator created for baby souls, and this is a trap of your mind, and you're partially responsible for it. Okay, because your focus determines your reality. You're supposed to learn that, and you're supposed to learn that you can make this place work for you. Whatever you focus on, this place becomes. So if you're focused on this place being, oh no, the governments are in charge and they took control in the deep state, you're giving them that control. Oh no, it's doomsday and we're all going to be unalived. You're giving that to this place through proxy. You don't know it, but that is your focus, and your focus is determining the collective reality. So and this is true, you can look this up. I'm not the only one that's saying this, okay? This is everywhere in all of the religions. And as a theologian and a minister of 4 different religions, I'm telling you, okay? I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. I'm telling you that it is in every single Talmud you've ever heard of. It's just they change a couple of words, or they don't tell you about that section of that. They don't give you that verse that tells you that, okay? So here's an example. Back 2,000 years ago, there was a guy named Jesus. He was teaching the way. It's now called Christianity because it's the way of the Christ. His last name was not Christ. Thank you very much for that. Smurf, thank you for that. And what else did you give me there? You gave me an ice cube. Woo-hoo, 5 of those. Thank you. Right? Thank you for that. So a couple thousand years ago, there was a man named Yahweh, right? In English, that means Jesus, okay? In Spanish today, that means Jesus, right? So Yahweh gave us the way. Well, he didn't invent that way, because that way has been around for a lot longer than that person. But he was talking about the same way, the Tao Te Chi. The Tao Te Chi means the way, the book of the way. Okay, that came around in 634 BCE. That's before Common Era. If you're Christian, BC, before Christ. Okay, we are in AD, Anno Domini, which means in the year of our Lord, 2026. So 2,650 years ago, or 55 to 57 years ago, there was a man called Lao Tzu in China. At the same time, in that same time period between 629 and 641 BC, there was another man called the Buddha. Buddhism, Taoism from China. They were teaching the exact same way. Okay, so come forward 630 years, and there was this guy named Jesus, and he was teaching the way of the Christ, the way. Okay, so the Christ, what does that mean? That's the Christos. The Christos, that's a Greek word for that Latin phrase of Christ, Christos. And what is that? That's an oil. I wrote about it in this book, Pointing in the Wrong Direction. The reality about reality returning to the old ways. I'm not the only one that talks about the Christ oil. The Christ oil is in every single religion that you've ever heard of. There's a version of it. If you remember the sagas of the Vikings, they're going across Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge. Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, is the Jacob's Ladder. It's your 33 runs of your spinal column going through the chakras. Okay? Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mike. Or Matt. I'm sorry, Matt. Thank you for that, Matt. So it was in the Viking sagas that the Lord God, the All-Father, right? The All-Father, Odin, the God of the universe, the creator of the universe, so loved the earth that he sent his only begotten son down to earth to prove himself. Sound familiar? Yahweh, the God of or Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, so loved the earth, he sent John 3:16, he sent his only begotten son down to earth. They both descended down to earth, came down in human form, were not immortal gods, were human, lived among the people, had to sacrifice themselves for the people, and then resurrect and go up. And then, you have the Jesus character going up on the cross. Well, you should look up Odin. Odin was also crucified on a tree and gave himself for the people. And he became unalived and then resurrected and went to heaven and became the light of the world. So did his son behind him. Did the same thing. Sound familiar? This is all over the world. But if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. Okay? So if you don't read it and you don't see it, right? Your dog's name is Odin. I love that. That's a great name. It's a good name for a dog. What kind of dog is he? It's a great name, even if it's a little poodle. Although I hope it's not a poodle. I hope it's a big dog that scares people, because Odin should be big and scary. Okay. So Yorkie. Okay, well, Yorkies, you got to be worried about Yorkies, right? Those guys were designed to go into tunnels and stuff. You got to be worried about them. They're tough. They are tough. They can take on everything that's in a hole in the ground. They were bred for that. Okay, so those are scary. They're like Chihuahuas. Those are scarier because they're small and they run in places. Okay, so the Christ is this oil that is the Christ oil. The Christos is an oil, 2 oils that are in your brain in 2 different places that is secreted once a month, and they go down your spinal column. They go all the way down your spinal column, and then they merge together and become one oil, and they go back up your spinal column and go through your hippocampus. Okay, they go through your claustrum, which is the chimney. It's where we get the word claus from, Santa Claus. It's not old Saint Nick. They always try to tie everything to a third dimensional. Oh, it was old Saint Nick, a cross between this guy, that guy, and that guy over there, and then it was made by the Americans, and it was just made for retail. Not true at all. That storyline was actually different. Okay. The clause, Santa Claus, you have to realize now, you guys are Norwegian, you know what I'm talking about. What is the Norwegian word for auntie or grandma? Tenta. Okay, so what is the Middle Norwegian? Those of you who are Icelandic, you know what I'm talking about because you still speak that language. What does Santa mean? It doesn't mean saint, like for coming from the Latin, right? It doesn't mean that. It means the masculine version of Tenta, which is auntie or grandma, wise one, doesn't it? So Santa means not saint somebody, old Saint Nick. It doesn't mean that at all. That's a European's translation, a Catholic Christian translation of what they were trying to say when they said Santa Claus. Klaus, from the word claustrum, Klaus, that word to the Vikings, especially in Middle Norwegian, was the grommet hole that the rope went through on the sails. And the older version of that was the, wait for it, hole in the roof, the chimney in the roof. So Santa Claus is not Saint Nicholas or Saint Claus. It's Saint Claus because he was going up and down the claustrum, the wise one who is Christed and going up and down the claustrum and leaving you a present if you're a good person. Okay, you can look that up. It's all over the internet. Go to YouTube and type in Christ oil within the brain. And that's going to come up with videos. There's videos out there. I even reference one of them in this book. Okay. This book gives the entire description of what goes on in your body, depending on what sun sign you are. I am a Virgo, whatever sun sign you are. The moon, our moon, as it's going around the planet, moves in and out of every single zodiac sign, all 13 of them, once a month for 3 days, 2.5 days. There's your unaliving and resurrection 3 days later, okay? So you should look into that. I've been saying this for years. Finally, someone that gets it. Thank you, BW. If you've been saying this and you've been talking like this, you've been on the right track. I'm going to go like this and give it to you. Oh, yeah, baby. You've been on the right track. You're not wrong. You're right. Pay attention to it and tell your friends, okay? Facts, right, Matt? Facts. So literally that stuff, I wrote about it in my book, but you can Google it. It's all over the place. There's another book called God-Man, the Bible Made Flesh. That came out in like 1948, 49. Those guys talked about it. I didn't reference it in my book because I actually hadn't read that book yet. My brother, who just graduated seminary, Bible college, or actually he just got his a bachelor's degree in theology and his ministry. Thank you for that. Who gave me that? Thank you for that. What is that? Short circuit. Thank you for that, Robin. So my brother, who just graduated last month, now has his bachelor's degree in theology. Thank the gods that he's a theologian like his brother and a minister. He just got his ministry. So I'm very proud of my little brother for doing that. Now I just got to get him to not be indoctrinated by the Christian school that he went to and expand his consciousness to the realization of everything that's all over the world and all the religions. Okay. So it's in this book. You guys can get this book on Kindle or ebook for like $4, right? Maybe $5, $4.99, $5, depends on where you are in the world. If you're American, you can get it for $3.99 or $4.99 on Kindle or ebook, or already free if you pay for Kindle or ebook. You can get it there. I don't know if you can get it for free. I think you can get it for like 30 days for free. Otherwise, you can get it anywhere online in the world that ships. If you're over here in Australia, I'll ship you a copy. And if you want me to sign a copy of it and you're in Australia, otherwise, for me to send it over to like the United States would cost me $50 just in shipping. But if you want to buy one and you're in Australia, especially New South Wales, I'm in New South Wales, Australia, I could even meet up with you and hand it to you. But we have some that we sell over here in Australia. We'll mail them to you. So if you guys want, you can just email me. Here's the email right here, merlinandmaeve@gmail.com. Okay. See, that's right. Well, see, Robin, that's one of the things that bothered me. Robin said, for those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, Robin said, you make much more sense than anyone around right now. I agree with you 100%. I found reading all of this stuff in the literature and in the religions and all these Talmuds and these scrolls, everything that exists today is very hard to understand because the writers at the time knew that people were going to try and edit it. So they wrote it almost obscure, but they gave us little hints. Let him who hath understanding reckon. Let him who hath the ears to hear or the eyes to see. They gave you this little highlight saying, all the stuff I just said to you or all the stuff I'm about to say to you means something more than the words you're reading. So those of us who are theologians start paying a little bit more attention in that spot. But then let's go beyond that. Beyond that, people trying to explain to you what's going on have to be very awake. If you look right here on the screen, okay, my name, my spirit name, this name of this body is Leonard O'Neill, born on this planet. The soul, the spirit that is occupying this avatar, my name is Kelto. And the reason I know that is because I am not veiled like you guys are. I am completely unveiled. And I've been unveiled in this entire lifetime. And I've come to this life to do what I'm doing because nobody here is explaining things in a comprehensive way that everyone can understand. And that bothered me even when I got here. Why is no one speaking plainly and saying, hey, guys, here's the actual translation into words that you can understand? That's why I wrote this book, okay? That's why I wrote this book, and I have a podcast, and it's called Orion Rising. Okay, let me pull the image up on the screen. Here's my podcast. This is absolutely free. You can find this podcast anywhere you look for or listen to your MP3 podcast. I also have videos on YouTube under my name. You can see it right there on the screen, Leonard O'Neill. If you go to Leonard O'Neill 1067, that's the at on YouTube. There's over 500 videos up there for you to be able to watch if you want to see things. If you just want to hear it on MP3, Google that on any MP3 place you listen to a podcast. There's almost 600 episodes of me translating real scripture into real time for you guys and giving you guys the actual stuff, right? How do you know what days? Okay, that's a good question, Black Apple. Whatever your sun sign is, you can look up. I use an app, but there's many different apps where you can buy a calendar. Okay, if you look up moon in your sun sign, there's an app that's called. Hold on, and I'm not getting paid by these people, but there's other apps that are out there that you can use. I use this one because I just seem to like it because it works for me. So hold on. It's I got to go to Google and Google it, okay? But it happens every month, and there's a calendar that actually shows it, and we'll talk about that in a second, okay? But first, let me go moon in your sun sign, and it'll pull up this app that I use, moon in your sun sign, and I use this app that's called Astro Seek, right? And it works pretty good. So it's ASTRO, write that down, ASTRO, and then a straight dash in the middle, not the down symbol, but the one in the middle, Seek, SEEK.com. I don't get paid by them, but if you don't like that app, there's plenty of them. When you click on that, it'll take you to today and what moon phase is in. And if you look on your computer or on your phone, there'll be a little thing that has the different months, right? We're in July. It'll be on today's date, but if you go to the little month and click the July again, it'll bring up the entire month of July. Then you look at whatever your sun sign is. I'm a Virgo. Then you just scroll down until you find when. It tells you the exact time of region that you're in, wherever you are in the world. It'll say, like my Virgo, the moon moves into Virgo I'm making this up because I didn't go to the thing. Let me go to the thing and I'll tell you exactly what it is for Virgo, and I can tell you guys as well. Yes, thank you, Robin. What she just typed on the screen, astroseek.com, just what you type there, okay? .com, and then when you go there, like I said, you hit like July and it reloads. It shows you all of July, and now it's not doing it. So I'm going to hit June, and my phone's just being slow because I have everything open. So it opens it up, and I can't read it right now because my phone's being slow because I'm on here on my phone watching you guys as a monitor. There we go. Now it went to June, so now I'll have to go to July. But if you do that and you click on it, you can actually read to the minute of when the moon is actually going to move in your sun sign. Now, why is that important? The oil goes down your spine in the Inga and the Pingala nerves that go down your endocrine system. It goes right from your brain, goes through your claustrum, starts at the base of your spinal column where your brain plugs in to your nervous system. There's two nerves there, and the oil goes down those nerves, goes down to the base of your spine. Phyllis, welcome in. Goes down to the base of your spine, and then literally merges together, and then starts back up. So if you look at when it is that the moon moves into your sun sign, by that date, if it says that it's tomorrow at 7 p.m., your time, wherever you are in the world, that means the oil has already gone down your body and has already come back up, and it is now sitting in your right below your hippocampus. Okay, right in the bottom of the hippocampus, went through the claustrum into the hippocampus, and it's sitting there waiting. So you usually want to back up a couple of days because that oil goes down and up. And as long as you're not having sex, ejaculating, you're not getting drunk and doing drugs other than like psilocybin and those kind of psychedelics. But I would still kind of stay away from that. Meditating or praying, whatever you do, eating right, not eating junk food and processed foods. Give it like a day before, but it'll be in your sun sign. The oil comes up, goes through your claustrum, charges up your Bifrost, your rainbow bridge, charging with energy from your chakras, goes through your claustrum, and then it is Christed. That's where they get the Christos from. It's inert, like it's unalived, and it sits there for 2.5 days. In that time period, if you're meditating, if you're not getting drunk and you're not debauching yourself and you're not expending that oil, 3 days, that's all it is. 60 hours is all it actually is. 2.5 days, 60 hours. At the end of that, that's being good. And Santa Claus, you're on the not on the naughty list anymore. You're on the nice list. Okay. And you're not self-serving. Then that oil actually gets, all that energy builds up in that oil. And then it goes through from your hippocampus into your optic thalamus, and then explodes with DMT, explodes with all of this energy that illuminates you. You become the light of the world. Okay. So yeah, true story, Bingo. Bingo's like, yeah, true story. So this happens every month. So if that's your 10% tithing that you hear about in these churches, you pay that tithing, that is like going to add up to about 10% of your day, right? So when you do that, 3 full days is going to be 10% of the week in hours or minutes. And then if you're at any other time not debauching yourself, you're going to be rewarded more. So the more that you do, the more that you get drunk and you get excessively drunk or eat processed foods, that lowers your vibration. It lowers your body's vibration and the nutrients and robs you of key nutrients that you need. Okay. So literally that happens. You can track it. I put it on my phone. This is my my cell phone. I have 2 of those because this is my American cell phone and this is my Australian cell phone, because I still have business that is tied to that phone, and this phone is tied to my business in Australia. So I keep them separate so I don't have to re-log in every time, because this phone has me tied to Australia and says that I'm in Australia. This phone still says I'm in the United States, so I don't have to worry about problems with being logged in 2 different countries. Do you see? So I'm logged in on each phone in 2 countries. I don't have to re-log in. Wait, let me log out of my American account and log into my Australian account. Okay. Because there is a thing when you go to other countries. If you guys have gone to other countries, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So I was under the impression, Matt says, we had to do semen. What's this? We had to do semen. Hold on. Retention for a month before. Well, it will work if you do it, but here's the thing. It happens once a month, right? So if you're going to do semen retention for a full month, as soon as it's over, you're going to have another whole month. So when do you start, right? You don't have to, but if you're wanting to be, this is why they give up sex in the religions, my friend. Because if you want to be on the purest thing, you don't get married, you don't have sex, you stay diligent like the monks do. And why is that? Because of giving all of that up. There's your 10% of your life you're giving up, right? For that to be just illuminated. You don't have to do that, but you can, right? So if you're going to do it, then you're just going to end up having to keep doing it, right? It does get harder, but over time it gets easier. And know that I am a monk. You have to realize that. I am a paladin. Okay, I even have pictures of me. I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. I'm actually a monk, okay, in that religion. So I actually have pictures of me dressed up in the friar tuck outfit, the brown thing with the rope tied around my waist. No joke. I showed them to my wife, but I didn't want to join the Catholic seminary because you don't get to have sex. I like sex. So you don't have to give it up 100%, but during that time period, so I would give it up for probably 4 days before and the 3 days. So usually for about a week out of a month, you're going to want to give up ejaculating, okay, or in any way having sex and and having that euphoric effect. Because what happens is when those endorphins go to your brain, that oil, as it's sitting into your brain, it changes the chemistry. That endorphin gets into that oil and changes the chemistry of that oil, and that oil becomes a coal-like substance. Sound familiar with the Santa Claus story? You get left coal instead of a present. This has been proven by the Greeks. I write about it in my book, okay? And I'm not the only one that talks about it. The Greeks actually got into the brain and saw that. In fact, the reason that we have the word coal, it comes from the color and the consistency of that substance in the brain, and the Greek word for it translated into French. And then from the French word, we get the word coal. So it was something like, don't quote me on this for those of you who are linguistics or assyriologists. It was something close to coleus that became the word that we use for the word coal. So we get the word for the coal, the actual what that coal is, and the powder from the liquid that energy transfers into. It turns into a black, thick, coal-like substance in our brain, and that actually lowers your vibration. So if you use that sexual right energy with sexual right, it's going to solidify you more into the third dimension and lower your vibration. If you don't, at that time period for those 3 days, then it actually illuminates you and pulls you more into your higher self. Now, the only way that all of that's going to benefit you is that you can remember that several people, including Jesus, but Lao Tzu from the Buddha, or from the Tao Te Ching, from the Taoism, Buddhism, all of these guys talk about this body as a temple. What you put in here, you become. Your focus determines your reality. So if you're not eating the right nutrients, then you're not going to be in any way able to do what you're supposed to be doing, okay? And what does that mean? And what is that exactly? Okay? So you have to have the right nutrients, because there is a chemistry in your brain that your brain resides on and your whole body resides on, specifically your brain. The problem with if you don't have the right nutrients going into your brain is your brain actually shrinks. So specifically your hippocampus. Okay? Your hippocampus is that thing that is in the center of your brain that looks like a ram's head. So you see that in the ancient depictions from Egypt and Rome and Greece with these guys who were gods that had ram's horns on their head. Okay, that's actually the hippocampus. I made a meme or a reel about it, and I posted it all over all my platforms because I'm on all the platforms. Okay, there is actually a reel about it that shows you the shape of it. It's the actual same shape of a woman's uterus. Okay, same shape. It's the one that they use for the ram that they use for the sun sign, right, of Aries. Aries, the ram. It's the same thing. So I'll actually show you that as above, so below, as within, so without, that in your brain, you have your brain stem coming up to, that is the hippocampus, coming up with the part of your brain that comes across and then rolls around like ram's horns, is exactly the same as a woman's entire, tools to create a baby. The goddess part of a woman is shaped the same way, her womb and everything. Okay. So, and including going where the eggs are, the whole nine. You guys should look at that. I made a video about that, real short 30-second video. Pardon me. So, what Bingo says, you're so smart, I want a picture, right? So literally, yeah, there are pictures, but you can go look. It's no joke. It's actually on all the platforms because I'm on. Look up me, Leonard O'Neill. You can go to Facebook. And there's links there. You can go to, I think YouTube, I have links, or look up Merlin and Maeve the other way. Look up Merlin and Maeve over here. We have Merlin and Maeve on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, right, as well as myself. And my wife, who's popped in the room right there, Brooke O'Neill, who is in there saying, E.g., the constellation of the moon, the one that's typing there, that's my wife. So who was it that was answering? You said at Brooke only when it is in your sun sign. Yeah, that's my wife, Brooke, right there, talking. She's at work right now, and she must be on break or something, so she's in there talking to you guys, okay? So listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. She's the Maeve to my Merlin that you can see on the picture right here, okay? So literally, you have to realize the nutrients that you put in your body are going to fuel your system. So there are certain things that they told you between that time period back in the thing, right? 2020 to 2024. They were saying not to take certain things because people were saying those things would help you with that thing that was going on back then. Okay. And what is that? Vitamin C, right? Vitamin E, vitamin D, like that comes from the sun, right? So, omega threes, omega 3, 6, and 9, right? The omega oils, right? And then there's something else that they also are on making sure that it doesn't happen and be put in anything, and that's lithium. Not in the, I said this earlier, but not in those way crazy high amounts that they give you if you're bipolar, like 1 to 4 grams a day. Because what happens is, and this is, if you look up that guy, if you look up Michael Nails, if you look him up, right, talked about him before, that German scientist, that doctor, he wrote a book about it, and he'll explain more of it in there. There's a book that he just released in February, I think, of this year. Okay. And that one says you'll see what it is. I can't talk about that because I'm not, like I said, I'm not actually getting paid as a commercial, because this is not a commercial and I'm not getting paid for this to endorse this person, but you should look that man's name up. Now, as far as like the Anunnaki thing, if you want to learn more about that, you should look up Matthew LaCroix. Okay. Matthew LaCroix, or go to my Facebook page, Leonard O'Neill, right? You'll see my face on there. You'll see my book is on there. You'll see Merlin and Maeve in the background. My wife and I is my icon. If you go there, pinned to the top of my page is Matt LaCroix on Danny Jones's podcast from 6 months ago. If you click there, it's going to take you directly to when he's talking about the Anunnaki translation by Zecharia Sitchin. Then you can also listen to his entire podcast. He also has a book that just came out like last month or the month before that. So 2 books that have been out since, say, February until now, both released by 2 different people, Matthew LaCroix. And my wife just put it in the chat. You can see his name right there in the chat. Brooke put that in the chat. Pin that, baby, so they can see that, please, if you're still on there. Guys, and you can, I don't know if that just pins for me or if it pins for everybody, but Brooke put it up there. So put that in, Matthew LaCroix, right? Matt LaCroix. Type him. He has his own Facebook page. He also has his own YouTube channel. That guy, it tells you exactly the real people who translated the actual scrolls, and Zecharia Sitchin was wrong, and then the real translation for that. Anunnaki does not exist in that form. It's not some aliens who came down here. All those people are lying to you. Okay? So AstroSeek, for the tracking of your sun sign, make sure that you're not having sex at that time period. No ejaculation, no crap food, no alcohol. Try to stay away from all that crazy progressive food or whatever, Try to stay away from all the stuff that's been really tampered with as far as food. Try to eat organics. If you can, do it, plan it for about 3 or 4 days ahead of time, because that oil is going down and coming back up. Don't expend it at the end of that time period. It'll tell you when the moon moves out of your sun sign, and that you can track it. I put it on my phone, on my calendar on my phone. So I literally go through every month and go, on this date, on this date, on this date, on this date, and I get a notification, no sex for oil. That's what I say, no sex for oil for 3 days. So I'll see that. It'll come up on my calendar on my phones, both my phones, and I'll go, oh, okay, Christ oil, starting today or tomorrow at this time. You can set up on there when you get a notification, right? A show, thank you for that, right? A short circuit, thank you for that. 20 hearts and some boom boom things, right? Thank you for that. For Go Popular. So literally, guys, you just have to, if you want to get out of this matrix, here's a couple of things, right? The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. 2, you are what you eat. Your focus determines your reality. And then 3, feed you what you eat, you become. So minimum, that guy has a saying, he calls it, I think it's the minimum nutrients or the basic nutrients, something like that Michael Nails, he has a saying, in agriculture, the only way that you can get crops to grow properly is you have to have these basic nutrients in the ground. Otherwise, the plants that you're trying to grow to eat aren't going to grow the way you want them to grow, as big and as nutrient full, rich. So he looked at that as a scientist and said, what if we apply that to humans? What is the basic needs that we need to make ourselves work? And what he found out was that in 1948, 1949, there's those numbers again. In that time period, the scientists around the world who were taking control of everything, they decided to change our food supply, and they took off all of those minerals. They say things like, you can't have all that cholesterol. If it's good cholesterol, you need it. But they get you on this medication to stop you, to lower your cholesterol all the way down to like 100 or something, and you're supposed to have between 350 and above in cholesterol, but not too high, but you want to have no bad cholesterol. They don't tell you that. They just lower all your cholesterol. Why? Because your brain is made of it. Your brain actually needs cholesterol. Your body needs cholesterol, even for testosterone. So here's the thing that guy says, Michael, the doctor, the German doctor, he says that literally the reason that so many people are getting Alzheimer's is because their hippocampus, a part of their brain, because they're not feeding it with the right nutrients, is shrinking. So your hippocampus in your brain is 24% smaller by the time you become unalived, thank you for that, than it is when you're born with that little teeny baby head. Okay? Little teeny baby head. And your hippocampus is 24% smaller by the time you end up getting Alzheimer's or dementia, one of those things. Okay. So if you feed your brain, keep the good cholesterol in it, it gets rid of that plaque that's in there. There's stuff you can take for all of that. Okay. And it's those vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin B, right? B13, vitamin D3, right? The omega 3, 6, and 9, especially the omega 3s. Those are good for you. You get that in fish and greens, right? Eating green food, green lettuces and green plants, right? You get that stuff that's in there, or you go out in the sun and you get vitamin D through your skin. We get it through osmosis and through our skin, right? We get it through like photosynthesis. Do you have this written in a book right there? Okay, let me move this out of the way. Do you see this? Let me move this and make this disappear. Do you see this book right over here called The Reality About Reality? This is right inside this book. Oh, I'm moving my camera instead of this. Right inside that book, you can find this book anywhere online, right? The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways by me, Leonard O'Neill, O'Neill. Okay, you can find that. You can Google that, right? Yeah, yes, vitamin D3. Short circuit, yes, vitamin D3. So the vitamin D is D3 that you need. Vitamin C, then you want to have, you definitely want to have magnesium. You definitely want to have, you got to get some lithium. You can buy that. It has to be a certain type of lithium because they put some of it in your table salt, but that's like lithium sulfate or lithium phosphate. You don't want that version. You want, I have it written here someplace. Hold on. Oh, it's on this phone. Hold on. I'm sorry. It's over here on this phone. It's called lithium. If my wife's on here, she'd probably type it faster than I could find it because I sent it to her. Hold on here. I have it typed someplace and I'm not sure where. I think it's in my notes. Hold on. It is lithium orotate. Okay, so it's OROTATE. That used to be called vitamin B13. Okay, thank you, baby. There's my wife putting it up on the screen for me. Vitamin B13 in America, I think you can still get it as vitamin B13. But if you look up online, lithium orotate, okay, OROTATE, lithium. You can get that in like 1 to 4 milligrams. You can either get it in drops or you can get it in capsule forms. That low dose of lithium getting into your body goes to your brain and it helps your brain to expand. Your hippocampus stays and gets enlarged. What happens when your brain expands? What happens when your hippocampus gets enlarged? Your optic thalamus follows. Your optic thalamus is your third eye. When your brain increases in size, you get smarter. They don't want you being smarter. Why? Because they can't go, these are not the droids you're looking for. This is not what you want to see. Move along, okay? And that's what's going on is they're doing that and your focus determines your reality. They know that. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get back with opening up the thing over here. They know that, so they're actually shrinking your brain. They've been doing this to you on purpose, okay? That is not a lie. You can look that stuff up. Like I said, Michael Nails, Nehls, Michael, doctor, German doctor, wrote some books. The last one he just put out, I think it was February of this year, could have been February of 25, but it's the last book that he just published. You should take a look at that. If you don't, watch the video with him on Tucker Carlson on YouTube. There's a video. I don't know if you like Tucker Carlson or not, but he interviews this guy, and that guy does most of the talking, and he will tell you all of this information that I just told you about that. The Christ oil is written in this book right here, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, written by me, Leonard O'Neill, okay? And it has all of that in there, and this nutrients and stuff, I tell you in there, you got to eat the right nutrients and the right things, okay? So you need to look into all that stuff. And I love you, baby. I love my wife. She's right there. I love you. She's talking to me in the chat. I love you. That's Brooke. That's my wife. That's my Maeve to my Merlin, right? It is possibly B12 and not B13. No, he said it was B13. If it's B12, make sure that just look at what is the B12. You can look that up. If it's lithium, right? If it's lithium, then look up, make sure it's the right word, the right one, lithium orotate, Orotate. If it is, and then I misspoke and it was B12, then I apologize. But look up, I just Googled lithium orotate, and you can get the vitamins. You can literally get a gel cap with lithium orotate in it. But in America, they still have vitamin B12, B13, and stuff like that. But it is an acid. But it's a sodium, so it's not a citrus. So it's not a citric acid, it's a sodium base, right? Lithium is sodium base. A lot of your table salt was lithium phosphate and lithium, one of the other ones, when they took the sodium out of that. Yeah, B13, right? So B13 is uric acid, okay? So that's the one that you want. That's lithium. The uric, like Brooke just looked it up and put it on the screen for me. So Orotic acid. That's the lithium that you're looking for. That's B13. Okay. So it's not B12, it's B13. Everything is an acid. Everything is some sort of acid of some sort. I'm also a chemist. I was listed for 10 years as a chemist in the United States when I was living over there before I came over here. They call that, what is that? They call that a non-essential vitamin. They call that a non-essential vitamin. Yeah, they actually call that a non-essential vitamin because why? Well, they want you to shrink your hippocampus. The average human, their brain shrinks. Your hippocampus shrinks 24% by the time you end up with, Alzheimer's or dementia when you're in your 50s, or 60s, or 70s. And that's what's happening to everybody. Why? Because they're shrinking the brain. They're not allowing the brain to clear the plaque out. So you got to get that plaque out of the brain, right? Stay conscious and stay curious. My wife, that's her quote. Stay curious and question everything. That's my wife's published quote. She loves you guys and wants you guys to keep doing that, right? Are you streaming on 2 platforms right now? No, I used to stream on 3 platforms at once. I'm only streaming on this one right now currently, but I do put it up after this. I take the recording and then transfer it to an MP3 file, and then I put it out on all MP3 file platforms all across the world. And then I'll take the video and put it up on Facebook on my page and on YouTube on my page. And on Facebook, I usually post it on Orion Rising because that's the podcast, right? I have Orion Rising, the page on Facebook, and I'll put this broadcast on that page as well as my personal page and Merlin and Maeve, okay? So, but I used to broadcast on 3 platforms, but they don't let you do that from here. I would have to broadcast, and I did this before where I put up another camera, and I would broadcast on 2 different platforms on one camera, and then I would look at look back and forth between the cameras while I was talking, and put them side by side once, and recorded them and sent them out on 2 different platforms because I was doing it in a different studio. I'm on the TikTok live studio, but this studio won't let you broadcast on other things unless it's gaming. So I could do it on like Twitch or something, but I couldn't do it on YouTube or Facebook because they're having a problem with that, right? Yes, you can ask me a question. Please ask me questions. Right? Definitely. Robin said, can I ask a question? Yes, you may. You may ask everybody out there. Who is Kelto? Kelto is my higher self, butterfly. The name of this body, this avatar is Leonard O'Neill. I am not this thinking mind. I am not this physical body. I am an immortal soul, just like you are, an immortal spirit that is forever. That spirit that is forever, his name is Kelto. You can see it right there on the screen. Okay. That is who my true personality is. And my wife, Brooke, who just said in the audience, she said, I am Satori. Okay. She was born Brooke, right, in this physical body, and she's married to me. So she's Brooke O'Neill, married to me. But her immortal soul is named as Satori because we're both awake enough to actually know who we are. Okay. You have a name that you don't know about, that you're actually, that you go by, but you just don't know that, right? You just have to look into it and ask yourself. And hopefully I didn't miss a question. Oh, how much worse is it with all the nutrients that we lack? If you don't have all those nutrients in your body, your brain will shrink. Your hippocampus will shrink by 24% by the time you become unalived. Okay. So if you don't have the normal nutrients that you want, most of which you get from foods, okay, the lithium you don't get from foods, but we used to get it in the seafood and the crustaceans from the water. Okay, and that's gone down a slight bit from there. So if you eat a lot of fishes and a lot of seafoods, you'll get some. And there's some waters. Brooke and I looked up the water that we have in Australia that we buy, not the tap water, but the water from Australia. And it does have a little bit of lithium in it, but it's banned from like Germany and the UK. So you guys can't get any lithium in your water. So you have to get external lithium. We don't make it. Most of the other stuff we either get from nature, D3 we get from nature, and then we get the omegas from eating fish. If you don't eat fish, you're low in omegas, right? So you're in Australia. Yeah, I'm in Umiko. I'm in New South Wales. So if you're over here, I don't know about the tap water, but the water we get from Woolies, because that's where my wife works. The water we get from Woolies is she said that she looked it up, and either that or one of the other ones that they sell there. Brooke could tell you. She looked it up today, and she said, I think there's some lithium in that. I don't know what amount though. So we decided we're going to buy some capsules and take 4 milligrams a day. You can't overdose on it unless you take like 300 milligrams, and it's bad for you, right? Bingo! I'm in Australia. Thank you for those of you who are over here with us, right? I know I sound American. I was born in the United States, but I'm here in New South Wales, Australia. I'm over in Woy Woy, up there above Sydney, in Australia, living with my wife. Okay, B13, yes, sir. Whoever just asked that, B13. Where can we pick up your book? You can pick up my book anywhere online. It's sold everywhere online. You can get it on Amazon all over the world, or you could go to fluoride-free OSA 10 liters. That's the stuff that we get. Brooke just put it up on the screen. We get fluoride-free OSA, OSSA 10-liter boxes of that water. That water supposedly has some lithium. We just don't know the amount, right? But if you're in Australia, that's why Australians are a little more awake than other countries. Do you know about the lead? Yeah, you got to get lead out of everything. Is that what you're asking me? What do you know about lead? Yeah, you need to get lead out of everything. The Romans didn't know anything about that, and they had lead pipes, and they all got dementia. They all got like really angry because it shrinks your hippocampus, and when your hippocampus shrinks, you get angry. You literally do, right? If people are on heart meds, can they still work? Yeah, it just depends. You have to see if it blocks it, right? That was one of the things that the doctor talks about on that video on YouTube on Tucker Carlson, that guy Michael Nails. Or Nels, I think it's Nehls is his last name, German doctor. He talks about that, and he says you need to look up the medicine that you're on and see if it actually, because if you try to take lithium like straight into your system, the lithium, your body will kill the lithium, so you have to take it in a capsule form, so that the capsule can protect it and it gets through the digestion and it gets into the body. So you have to look at that, but some of your medication will also do that. So you have to look at that if you're on heart meds. Look at that, right? Watching from Papua New Guinea. What's up, bro? How you doing in Papua New Guinea up north, right? So welcome. I'm glad that you guys are here, right? If I live where they were, they mine it. What are you talking about? You're talking about the lead? Well, you might want to check the lead area around your stuff, right? And make sure that you're okay. How do I find my higher self name? Rachel, you have to raise your vibration, first of all. So you have to start piercing your veil. So if you look at this book or Google the Christ oil within, right? That's my book that I wrote, the Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. Or you can go online and Google that and watch a video. You have to start raising your oil up into your optic thalamus and expand your consciousness. So you also have to eat the right food. So if you're taking the vitamins that we mentioned before, and this will help you to unlock your brain and start piercing this veil that you're actually in. You have amnesia, and that's normal. It's supposed to happen in third dimension. The aliens didn't do this to us. The Creator did. This is a test that we're supposed to pass as little baby souls. Okay, so you're supposed to start unlocking that third eye of yours, and as you start doing that, you will move yourself into a vibration that is not in 3D. You'll start moving into fourth dimension. You'll realize I am not this pain body. I am an immortal soul. That's the first step in unlocking who you truly are. Okay. So Queensland, is that where you're at? You're up in Queensland. I'm over here in Woy Woy. So I'm on the southern part of the Gold Coast, right? I'm on the Gold Coast over here, just on the bottom side of the Gold Coast before Sydney. I'm about 63 clicks north of Sydney. So you're up there in Queensland. Yeah, welcome. Holland. Whoa, early morning for you, late night, early morning for you, right? It's 11 p.m. in New York right now. So you guys are at least another 6 hours ahead of that, right? In Holland. Welcome from Holland. You might even be past midnight on to today with us on the 5th, right? It is when the moon is in your sun sign. That is correct. Whatever your zodiac sign is. Okay. So the moon moves through your zodiac sign. I'm a Virgo. The moon will move in and out of Virgo once a month. So whatever your sun sign is, whatever your zodiac sign is, the moon will move in and out of that at all times, right? Yeah, New York is 11:18. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is 11:18. What did I say? Did I say 11:30? I think I said that. 10:30. So you're in mountain zone, right? Mountain time zone, central or mountain. If you're at 10:18 p.m. because it's 8 p.m. in Los Angeles, Sacramento, right? San Francisco. Yeah. Morning. Yeah, that's what I thought. Good morning. That's why on my podcast, if you ever hear my podcast, before I started going live on TikTok, I would literally say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where you are tuning into the world. But now I'm in Australia. So the only people that are ahead of me is New Zealand and a couple of islands, Fiji, Tonga, Christmas Island, and a couple of islands. Otherwise, everybody's behind me in time because I'm right at the prime meridian. It's not too far away from us, right? Central, I thought you were. Yeah. So moon in your zodiac sign. Yes, moon moves into your zodiac sign. You can go, there's different websites where you can track it, or you can buy a calendar. We actually have a calendar that is a moon calendar. And when you look at the calendar, it shows when the moon phases, when it's new, when it's full, and when it moves in and out of every single zodiac sign. You can buy those online, or you could go to like Walmart or Target or somewhere if you're in America. My wife, Brooke, she works at Woolies. I think she said she got one from Woolies. That's Woolworths, the grocery store, right? So, but you can go online and you can track it online. You can see my podcast, Lloyd. You can see my podcast. Welcome, by the way, Lloyd. My podcast. If you want to see the video version of it, go to YouTube. Go to Leonard O'Neill 1067. Right. So go there and at Leonard O'Neill 1067. The numbers, not the words. Right. Number 1067. That's my podcast on, used to be called Orion Rising, but I got deplatformed during that time period of 2020 to 2024 because I was talking like this and telling people things, and Google deplatformed me and deleted over 500 episodes of my podcast and the name Orion Rising. So now it's under Leonard O'Neill, and you'll see there you can go back and watch it. If you just want to listen to it, anywhere that you listen to, and I'll put the symbol back up so you can find it. It's this guy right here. It's also a book that I wrote. Okay. Orion Rising. That's what it looks like. Okay. That's the symbol for my podcast. And it's also the cover of that book, Orion Rising, which is a what if story. What if aliens do exist on this thing, like Ancient Alien says, and what if they're real, and what if it's really happening? Well, aliens do exist, my friends, and it is really happening. Why did I leave the United States? I left the United States because I got married to my wife, Brooke, who is from Australia, and she has 4 children from her previous marriage, and we didn't want to leave them behind or uproot them and pull them away from their father, so I moved here. Yeah. Yeah, brother, you can take a look at, there's, if you listen to an MP3 podcast anywhere, I pay Podbean, So you can go to podbean.com, go to www.orionrising.podbean.com. You'll find my podcast there. I pay them to put it out to the world. I also put it on Spreaker, and they put it out to the world. So it's on Apple Podcast, it's on Google Podcast. Everywhere you listen to a MP3 version, it's on there, and there's 590 almost or 600 episodes, I think, going back like 5 years of me talking about all this stuff and teaching you all this stuff. Okay. So O'Neill, that's right, Sammy. O'Neill. That's my last name. Yeah, with two L's, not a typo. Let's see. What did you say here? Why did I leave the United States? That's why. Zodiac sign, tropical zodiac, whatever your solar zodiac, whatever it is. Like I'm a Virgo, Aries, Scorpio, whatever you are in that respect. So your month, the day that you were born, will coincide with a zodiac sign, and the moon moves through that zodiac sign, because the moon in that 28 days, the moon will move through every single zodiac sign, right? And then it'll keep doing that all the time. So, 2L Club. I hate that because when I write it down, people think that it's a typo and they take an L off, right? And so my last name, when I tell people, I have to say it's O'Neill. No, not a typo. So it's like my last name is O'Neill, not a typo, right? It's annoying. So what's the best thing to do when the moon enters your zodiac sign? I think you're a Cancer is right now. I don't know. I'd have to look it up what it is right now. The best thing to do is to not expend that oil that is sitting in your hippocampus. That means no sexual activity, no ejaculation. Okay, means you don't want to get drunk for those 3 days. You want to stay off of processed foods. So if you can meditate, if you don't know how to meditate, pray. It's the same concept. Your body goes through the same process. Meditate, eat right, sleep right, get good sleep, maybe even exercise. You want to actually just be kind of a Puritan at that point and eating good food and not staying up too late and tiring yourself out. It's not anything crazy. It's just giving up eating of the tree of life. Do you see? Living in the flesh and debauching yourself. If you don't do that, that oil sits dormant in your hippocampus, which is about, the top of your brain stem, which is about right there. And then it moves up through because it already moved up through your claustrum at the tip of the brain stem, and goes all the way, starts like right there, like right there. And then it goes up. So then your optic thalamus is here, right? Your hippocampus is just below that, and that's that thing that looks like ram's horns that you see on all the statues. So it sits just below that, right above the claustrum, at the end of the claustrum, at the hippocampus, and it's dormant for those 3 days, that 60 hours, that 2.5 days. And then if it is charged with all this energy, electromagnetic energy, the Kundalini, Kunda Buffer, Kundalini's masculine, Kunda Buffer's feminine, that's the two, like the Celtic knotwork, that's the knots, goes up your Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, 33 runs of your spinal column, 33 years of Jesus's life, 33 years of Thor's life, right? 33 runs on Jacob's ladder. All of those stories and those religions were telling you about this. Okay. Just recently heard about the white light and at death being infiltrated by demons. Not true. Can we help move it ourselves for those who can move around their awareness? You can't move the oil any faster. The oil just moves the way it does. The only thing that you can do is give it more energy, and that way you can do that. If you're a Leo, what is your sun sign? It depends. Now, this was what the other guy was asking a question about. If we're on the old 28-day, 13-month calendar, I'm a Leo. Okay. So I'm like, everything about me is Leo. My name is Leonard, which is Leo, Lion Heart. My initials are Leo, Leo, right? When I was baptized, I chose Gabriel. A nun said I needed to be baptized Leo because Leo was the patron saint of the spoken word on earth. I didn't know I was going to do this back when I got baptized. So my Christian name is Leonard Edward Leo Gabriel O'Neill. That's my surtitle, because I got knighted by those guys. Thank you, Cindy. And thank you to Ashoa for the 31 flowers you gave me. So by the 13 moon calendar, the old month calendar, the moon calendar, I'm a Leo because of the way it changed everything. So by the 12-month calendar, that with the Greco-Roman one that we use now, I'm actually technically a Virgo because I'm on the 10th of September. but I would shift to a Leo the other way because the months would change and the days would change, and we'd go back to where we're supposed to be. Like September, Sept is 7, right? You guys know about that? September is 7, and October, Oct is 8, right? So people don't realize that the names of our months meant different things because September right now is the ninth month, but the word means 7, right? So yeah, my patron saint is Leo. So yeah, so that I was baptized with that. So the monk, the sister chose that for me. So my patron saint is now Leo. Right? Isn't that crazy? I'm also a Leo, and my sun sign is Leo and Scorpio ascended. Yeah. See, I had what did they say that I was? I was something I don't remember now, something on the comedy scale, ascending from when I was born, because I was born at like 9:37 p.m. or something, and that gave me something weird, right? You're a Leo in the August range, right? So yeah, if you're on the cusp, my wife, who's probably back to work now, Brooke, who was in here earlier, she's on a cusp, right? So she's a Cap Aquarius. Okay. So if you're on a cusp, when you look at the Christ oil, you want to calculate the cusp to where you are. So if you're on a cusp and you're right in the middle, like if you're on a late, a late August going into, then you're on the beginning of the Virgo and the ending of the Leo. You would be on the cusp. So what you would want to do is look at where the moon is when it's halfway through Leo and halfway to Virgo, and count that as your 3 days for your Christ oil. Okay. Not the, yeah, not, yes, Lloyd, not the Pope, right? I got kind of annoyed when this Pope chose Leo, right? Saint Leo, the elder, right? Let's do that. Saint Leo the elder, not the younger, right? So yeah, Lloyd, you're funny. I love you. You're hilarious, right? You're in early August. Oh, okay. So if you're in early August, then you're going, well, then you're on the cusp. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you said that. Then you're on the cusp of Leo still, right? On Leo. And so you want to look at that here as well. So if you're not dead center in like, cause I'm kind of dead center in Virgo, the way I sit. So I picked the Virgo because I have more of those traits than I do the Leo traits. Even though the 13 moon calendar, I would be a Leo, I picked up more of the Virgo traits because I'm on the 10th, which is almost dead center from 22nd to 23rd, right? It's almost dead center. 11 is almost dead center. So I go by the Virgo. But if you calculate where you are, if you're 3/4 on one, or 2/4 on one, or whatever, you might want to look at that. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. Just look at whatever sun sign you are and use that, right? So please explain what you mean by ejaculate. So, like the euphoric effect of when you're having sex or when you're playing with yourself? That's a silly question to be asking. I don't know how old you are, but you should. I'm sure you know what ejaculation means, right? I think that's one of those trick questions. You're funny, right? I feel that I have a lot of Leo traits. Yeah. So if you feel that you have the Leo traits, chances are you do. Then I would look at the Leo when the moon moves into Leo and when it moves out of Leo. So when the moon moves into Leo, you have to already be not debauching yourself. And then for that 2.5 days, 2.5 days, it's 60 hours. But they always just say round it up and they say 3 days. So as it moves to that, and you know it's coming, if you plot that, you put it on your phone, no sex, no ejaculation, no getting off, right? To get back to what dude was asking, right? And yeah, Robin says I'm 100% Leo. Then yeah, go with 100% Leo. None of that, no alcohol, no processed foods. Meditate as often as you can and sleep right during that time period. If you're not self-serving, that's when you're on the naughty list of Santa Claus. If you're not self-serving, you're in service to others. At the end of that 3-day time period, that oil will then shoot into your, through your hippocampus into your optic thalamus and go poof and illuminate all of your brain cells. And it actually uplifts your vibration. You actually get smarter and you start becoming less veiled. Your veiling of your third eye will start opening up. Even if your third eye is open, it will open more. Trust me. I work with people and I teach this, right? literally teach this. That's why you can see on the screen right here, we have Defense Against the Dark Arts and the Reiki 1, 2, and 3. But I teach all psychic abilities. We teach, both Brooke and I are Reiki masters. We're both life coaches, spiritual life coaches. We teach you every psychic ability that you want. But anybody who's not self-serving, if you're actually in service to others, we tell you that this will give you like every psychic ability. So I could teach you one psychic ability, which would take me 6 months to a year to unlock for you, or I could give you Reiki 1, 2, and 3 and make you a master, and that will unlock every psychic ability that you can imagine that you want to have. What do you do when you're going through the 3 days? What I do is I meditate more. I'm already meditating anyways. I pray every day. I'm always reading scripture, right? I'm always investigating. I'm a nerd. That's what I did. I'm a theologian, so I do that by habit, right? I'm a pastor. I have 4 religious titles, right? And I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. I'm actually a monk, a paladin in the church. So I literally do that and I help people. So for me, I meditate. I don't drink any alcohol. I gave that up a long time ago, right? And then I don't eat processed food during that time period. Meditate, pray. You could do some exercises, make sure you sleep properly, get 8 hours of sleep a day in that 3-day time period. That's all you really have to do, right? You can still do things that expand your consciousness, smoking things or eating things that I don't want to say the words of because this communist platform will get mad at me. But the things that have THC or those other things in it, that, I'm not advocating that anyone do that. But what I'm saying is that's not considered eating of the tree of life because it's not alcohol. It's not lowering your vibration, right? Almost every day, Lloyd. Yeah. I mean, I don't read just when I say scriptures, I mean something from some religion, not just the Christian Bible, but yes, I do. Literally every day. Before I came on here, I was actually doing research today, and then I got caught up in the research from that guy Michael Nails talking about lithium and the different vitamins that we take, because he wrote a book about and was talking about back there during that thing with the jibber jabber thing that they wanted us all to get. And he actually was, they were trying to get him kicked out of the medical institute and stuff because he wrote a book and did conferences and was talking to people about the benefits of vitamins that they claimed wouldn't do you any good and that they would, right? So yeah, that's what I do when and this is no joke. You can ask Brooke if she were here, bro. Next time when you're on, if Brooke's on, or maybe later today when she gets home, because she's going to get off work at 3, I'll literally, without setting it up, I'll go here. You ask Brooke, when she calls me and says, hey, what are you doing? If I'm not literally online or doing, she'll say, what are you doing? I'll say, I'm reading scripture. She'll go, of course you are. I literally do that every day if I can. If I have 5 minutes of peace, I'm on to something. I'm reading some sort of something or other, right? She's right there. Ask Brooke. Dude, ask Brooke right there. No word of a lie. She'll tell you that I'm a nerd. I'm quoting scripture. I'm reading scripture. I'm putting it together. That's what I do. I'm such a nerd. I really am. I am in New South Wales, Australia is where I am. New South Wales, Australia, in a city called Woy Woy. It's a Aboriginal city, original people's name in Australia. I was born in Walnut Creek, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm over here living with my wife, who is Australian. Oh, you're in Adelaide. Okay, so we're kind of neighbors, right? I was just looking at Adelaide earlier today on the map. Brooke and I were looking at the map of Tasmania, and then we were looking at different things because there was a few things that we noticed that have changed, like a possible timeline shift. And we were like, when did the 2 islands pop up like this from Tasmania at the bottom of the Australia? I'm going to get a mustache and grow just the mustache right here and grow the beard and have the Tasmanian mustache, right? Lloyd, you're in Melbourne. Did you tell me that before? So you're right down there at the bottom. We were thinking about riding down there. We were going to drive down there, but there were no tickets left that weren't over $1,000 a piece, because my San Francisco 49ers, because I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area and I'm a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, they're coming to Melbourne in September 11th. They're going to be in Melbourne playing the Los Angeles Rams, right? They're going to be playing a game there. Brooke and I were going to drive down and stay in a hotel or maybe one of the caravan parks, because you know how they have those little houses. we were going to stay there and go and see the game, but we didn't hear about it until the tickets were all messed up, right? Yeah, Melbourne. Yeah, he says yes, right? Melbourne, right? Yeah, I know. First time I said Melbourne, Brooke looked at me and said, "What did you just say to me?" And I'm like, "Melbourne, Melbourne," and she's like, "No, Melbourne. That's Australia, bro. That's Aussie." And I was like, "What?" So I'm getting used to. I've been here almost a year now, full time. So I'm getting used to the words because I just had Brooke. There, she's laughing. Right? I love you, baby. So yeah, because I had listened to her talk forever, but not everybody else. And so I come over here, and now it's weird to hear Americans talk. I mean, I have this accent, but it's right. Yeah, how to meet canoe, right? Yeah. So let's see. What do you miss about America, about home? The food, right? I'm from California, so Mexican food. There's only one Mexican place here in this area, but it's actually a company from America, from Philadelphia. They got good Mexican food. There's far better seafood over here than there is in America, and I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. There's good fish over here, but I miss some of the I don't know. I think it's more just the like Mexican food, the culture that is the West Coast, that Santa Fe culture. I kind of miss that. But otherwise, I don't really miss much. It's almost identical. I'll tell you right now, Australia and the Australian people are America. They just drive on the right side of the road. They have the same attitude. They just have a different accent. If you know the Bostonian accent, Brooke didn't believe me. The people in Boston, Massachusetts, those Irish people in Boston, talking about parking the car. Your cousin from Boston. And I told her, I said, I'm telling you that there's people in the United States that are not Australians that sound just like Australians. And she said, no, no way. And so I turned on The Departed, and everybody in that movie is from there, right? So they were actually most of them were using their actual accent that they've been hiding forever. And they were able to sound like Southies, right? And Westies, right? If you guys are from that area, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a Bostonian or you're an American Irish, you probably know what I'm talking about. So we watched that movie, and she was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "I'm telling you, I don't know how it evolved that way, but the Irish accent in America, in Boston and around that area, is the same as an Australian accent, almost identical. It's crazy, right?" So it's crazy. But so she was watching, and when they were like, "You want to go down the car park? Come on, let's go down the car park. We'll figure this out right now. You want to go down?" And she was like, "Oh my God, dude!" I'm like, when they get mad, they sound more Australian, right? She goes, "Oh my God, I love this movie." Right? What's that? I was actually in the process of migrating to the U.S., but I wanted to take some more time. If you're going to go to the U.S., if you're going there, the U.S. is it's overcrowded. It's like being in Sydney. Well, you're in Melbourne, so you know what I'm talking about. So it's really crowded. There's a lot of people everywhere, unless you go out into the sticks, just like here. But it's going to be the same. The buildings are going to freak you out because they're going to look like home. The only thing is you're going to be driving on the right side of the road, left side of the car, instead of you can drive on the right side of the road, left side of the car, instead of the left side of the road and the right side of the car. That's it. Otherwise, it's going to be the same. The accents are going to be weird. You're going to have different illegal aliens in your country. You're going to have more Mexicans and people from Africa than you are going to have Greeks or Italians. But you're going to have the same Muslims trying to come in, right? But the food is. It doesn't like here. You have to be in the big city to have food from all over the world, right? And it depends on where you are. If on the coasts, anywhere in the big cities in America, you're going to have food from every single country on the face of the earth within walking distance of wherever you're at. So that's the one thing that I miss a little bit is there's not as much diversity here, even though there's like a McDonald's and KFC and Macca's KFC and stuff over here. That's just fast food. But over there, I can get Russian, I can get Tibetan, I can get Mongolian food, I can get, you know what I mean? So if I'm in the city of, over here in Sydney, I can do the same thing. But over there, I was in the state capital. I lived up in Carmichael, right outside of Sacramento. And I was able to get any food from anywhere in the world. So it's always good. I like the different flavors from around the world, right? Because otherwise you eat the same food and it gets boring. That's the only reason, right? But the good thing is that they have Chinese and specifically, like Vietnamese food and Korean food here. So I'm happy with that. And then they have Italian, so I'm happy with that. Sauce chef. I wanted to be one. That's funny. I wanted to be a saucier, Stephen. I was in the culinary school when I was in high school. We had a culinary academy in high school, and my father was a chef, and my uncle was a chef. One of my uncles. So I wanted to be a saucier. I love sauces. Sauces rock. I hope you're a sauce. I hope you're a sauce chef. Sauce chef. I hope you are, because that rocks, bro. Didn't you say that before? Top notch. Very good, brother, right? Okay, so yeah, sauces are good, flavors are good. So I like the flavors from around the world, the nuances of different flavors, because you could have rice and beans from 5 different countries and they taste different. Couscous, love couscous, right? Love that kind of stuff that's different. So growing up with 2 chefs in the family, I ended up, becoming a person that got to taste this food from around the world. And Brooke is a fabulous cook, and she cooks like many different dishes from all over the world. So she's really diverse with her cooking. She cooks very good Indian food. She's a Viking, but she cooks Indian food. She cooks Asian food. She cooks Korean food. And now she's learning some of the American cuisines from me. And I'm teaching her that because of being a cook. I'm not a chef or anything. I wish I'd be making a lot of money. But I'm teaching her a lot of the American dishes, and she's liking. I gave her like biscuits and gravy for the first time, right? I still haven't done hash, right? Corned beef and hash. I still haven't done corned beef hash yet for her, but one of these days I will, right? So I'm giving her some of these things that are all American. Okay, let's get back on track, because now I'm playing around with food, and some of the people in the audience are going, "What are you talking about, bro?" So we're talking about how to get out of this matrix. You can see it right up here. You want to get out of this matrix. It's a matter of like 3 or 4 steps. First, you have to realize that your focus determines your reality, right? The second thing you have to realize is the first step of avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. The third thing you need to realize is what? Nutrition. We are what we eat. Nutrition feeds your brain, feeds your body, right? All of these people in the scriptures, Jesus said this, everybody said this, your body's a temple. They talked about that. What you eat, you become. So if you eat shit, you become shit. If you eat good stuff, you become good stuff, right? Yeah, I love me some Mongolian and Korean barbecue, right? Tell me those. I know those are 2 different cats, but I love me some Korean barbecue too. Yeah, that's good stuff. Love Mongolian barbecue. Love Korean barbecue. Yeah, right. I love anything like cut off of a spit, right? All that halal that you get, halal food when like a hero, a Greek hero, they have that, right? Cut that off the spit and put it on there and make some good spices with it, a good mayo or a good moly sauce, moulinya. Wait, what did I just say? Good moly. Okay. So I'm making salmon potatoes right now. See, look at that, brother. Yeah, nice stuff. Salmon potatoes. I like that, right? The answer there, yeah. So yes, my answer is there. Laugh out loud. Yeah, right. Do we contact through the email? Yes, Cindy. If you want more information on anything that we teach, or if you want to learn like the Defense Against the Dark Arts, we took off 3 weeks and didn't do any Defense Against the Dark Arts classes. We're going to be doing courses here in July and going into August. This is super popular because everybody needs to know the Defense Against the Dark Arts. They should be teaching this to our children before they're 10. They should know this information. Okay. So we're teaching that. If you want to learn Reiki 1, Reiki 2, or Reiki 3, or just a Reiki Attunement, you just want Reiki healing, we do that as well. But if you want to learn anything else, we do life coaching and spiritual life coaching, right? So we teach all of the clairs, right? We teach everything that if you want to learn psychic abilities. But I always tell everybody, if you're in service to others, your best bang for the buck is learning Reiki, because that's going to unlock all of your psychic abilities, because that's just kind of what happens when you become a Reiki master, because you dedicate yourself to healing others, and that's going to unlock intuitions in yourself, right? So what does that stop you, Freemason? What'd you say? Stop you, Freemason? No, I'm not a Freemason, but I am a Knight of Columbus. I was knighted by the Holy Roman Catholic Church. So the Freemasons worked for our ancestors, because the Temple Knights and the Freemasons, the Freemasons used to be Masons who worked for the Temple Knights, and the Columbian Knights were created by Temple Knights, descendants of Temple Knights. So yes, if you whatever, and make sure you put your handle, make sure you put your Cindy on your, because I don't know if that's your actual name, because some people have different names on their TikTok. So make sure you say I'm Cindy. This is Cindy from TikTok. But yeah, right here, Merlin and Maeve at gmail.com. Email that, and whatever if you just want, give me more information on what you have. We'll give you a whole freaking page of what we teach here at Merlin and Maeve. We teach everything to help you wake up. We teach you nutrition. We teach you what to eat, when to eat it, what not to eat. The Christ oil, all that's in my book. The nutrition part isn't. That's in the next book that I'm writing, because we're upgrading that as we go. So we're trying to get as much of that information in there. I love that little forgotten one. Stop, you Freemason. No, I'm not. So if you're one of those zealotry, one of those Christians that are indoctrinated, you'll probably hate me even more, because I'm not a Freemason, right? The Masons worked for the Temple Knights. Yeah, they did. They were the Masons were the actual guys the Freemasons who worked to build all of the churches and all of the stuff for the Knights. And then most of them ended up becoming knighted as well. You can look that up in the history. Yeah, so the Freemasons that are alive today, Freemasonry, that was originally created by the Freemasons who were Knights Templars. Yes, they were Temple Knights. So but when they all got disbanded, they all had to go underground. So the Freemasons who were already Masons, who were doing masonry work, they just continued doing what they were doing and called themselves Freemasons. They were Masons. So they just went to that portion of it. So if you know anybody who's a Freemason today, you'll find out that as they move up through the Freemason categories, that they learn about being connected to the Temple Knights. Yeah, the Templars. And then the Templars were recreated by descendants of the Temple Knights, by Sinclair, as a matter of fact, the family members who were the last in charge of the Temple Knights. And as a Columbian Knight, the Knights of Columbus were created in 1860. I think it was 1860 when they were created, and that was by Father McGivney, a Catholic priest who was actually a descendant of a Temple Knight, and they created the Columbian Knights, the Knights of Columbus, and they were added into the church as the only holy order. And I think the Knights Templar are soon to be back. They were the first order that was added back, because the church disbanded all of the orders in that debacle of the 1099, 1207, in that time period between there when the church attacked the Temple Knights and tried to take all their stuff from them. So they disbanded all knights, and they Pope John Paul II, Papa Juan Pablo, Viva Jesus, Papa Juan Pablo, in nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. He brought the Columbian Knights back as a holy order in the church, an official order of the church. So now I'm a knight, that is in the official order of the Roman Catholic Holy See. And the Temple Knights just rode in on horseback a few months ago into the basilica and went in and had a meeting. So I think they're trying to get back as an order, right? Why did King of France kill them? The King of France and the Pope in Rome at the time, okay, those guys owed the Temple Knights all kinds of money. And they realized at that point that the Templars had more land in France and in Italy and around the world than the church and the king in France did. And they also had more money and more power. So they, being greedy, decided that they wanted to take that from the Temple Knights. So this is where you get the number 13 being unlucky. I've done 2 podcasts on this, 6 hours of a podcast, 2 different podcasts, 3 hours apiece, on the unlucky number 13 and the Templar Knights, and why the number 13 is unlucky. So back in 1207, Friday, October 13th, 1207, I think it was 1207, because the timeline shift changed that date slightly, but it was Friday, October 13th. On that date, the Pope in Rome and the King of France got together ahead of time and planned to arrest the Temple Knights worldwide all at the same time, right? All at 7 or 8 a.m. Zulu time. They were going to arrest everybody around the world. So the Templar Knights got word of it ahead of time, and the Vikings came down. They paid the Vikings to come down with their longboats, and they took all of their gold and stuff and went back up to Scandinavia. I think they went to Nova Scotia, which means New Scotland, by the way. Nova Scotia, Canada. It's possible those guys up there digging in the money pit are going to find their stuff. They hid away everything. So on the date in the morning when they went to arrest all the knights everywhere, 99% of all the Templar knights disappeared, were never seen again. That the church is aware of. They took all of their wealth, all of their land, they took all of their ships, all of their troops. So they confiscated the land because they weren't there to stop it, but they didn't get any of their wealth, they didn't get any of their land titles, they didn't get any of their stuff. Then different things happened, like Scotland became free, Switzerland became a country. And if you look up those histories of how that happened, like specifically the Battle of Bannockburn, the one that you hear about in Braveheart, if you watch the movie, they stop short of showing you the Temple Knights. You should look into the actual history of the Battle of Bannockburn and find out what happened, and you'll find that some knights rode in out of nowhere and saved the day. So then the banking system that we're using today is the Templar banking system, Swiss banking system. So the country of Switzerland became taken over by Temple Knights. You have the Knights of Malta, who are still around to this day. A few other orders that changed their name into a different name, and they kept all their stuff. So there's a lot of documentaries you can watch on that. There's even a show on Gaia where they have the Scott Walter, who is a rock hound, who he and I used to commune via email. I haven't talked to him for about 7-8 years, but we used to. He is on Gaia hosting a show about the Temple Knights. I haven't watched all, but I watched one episode, but I know it's there, and he has the Templar Knight Grandmaster on there. No, that was just the church used. Layman said, or L Man said, do they really worship Bahamut then? No, but what the are the Columbus Freemasons? No. The Columbian Knights, and then I'll get back to Layman. The Columbian Knights are Catholic, Roman Catholic. So they're not Freemasons. In fact, officially, the Roman Catholic Knights of Columbus do not like the Freemasons, and for some reason think that they're evil, right? But not all of the Knights of Columbus do. But officially, they're not friends, right? But I have personal friends that are Freemasons, and that are all, and I have also personal friends that are Knights of Columbus, right? Family members as well. So no, the Knights of Columbus are not Freemasons. They're a holy order of the Roman Catholic Church. They're a knight order, the only official order of. There's over 2.5 million knights worldwide. Yeah, we're in every country. Pardon me. We're in every country. We're in every military. We're even in like some governments that people don't know about. So getting back to the question that Layman said, he asked, did they really worship Bahamut? No, they didn't. They were accused of that. Yeah. The accusations that the church used at the time were a standard, just like you see in politics today, where the Democrats and the Republicans fight at each other, and you can always tell who's talking by the same rhetoric that each one always says, right? They always point the finger at each other, but they always accuse each other of certain things, and that's a tell, right? So the church back then would say you were worshiping a skull and peeing on the cross, and you were stepping on the cross, and these kind of things, and worshiping devils and demons. They always use the same things, right? I probably do. Thank you, baby. I was thinking about that. I have some cookies right here, and I was thinking that very thing. Thank you. My wife just popped in and said, you need your sugar, baby. She's noticing that my blood sugar level is getting a little low because I've been on here now for 2 hours. And most people who are channeling don't channel this long. So I think you're right. I have some cookies here, and I also have my energy drink and some coffee. So I'm going to drink some coffee. Thank you. That's my wife, Brooke, right there, by the way. Drink some coffee. I'm going to open up this cookies here. I brought some cookies out, but I didn't open them. So I'm going to open up this bag and eat a cookie while I'm talking to you guys to get my blood sugar level up. Otherwise, I get a little crazy. And King Solomon, the Freemasons worked with demons. Yeah, if you look at King Solomon, that he had, he claimed that he was using, necromancy and stuff like that, and getting demons to do work for him. You're absolutely right. Some of the rites, I've read a lot of the Solomon creeds and the stuff that Solomon had written in his books and stuff, and there's a lot of that. They were doing a lot of dark magic. There was another video that I just watched. It was also on, I think it was on Tucker Carlson, but don't quote me. And there was a priest from the Eastern Orthodox Church, he was on. He had long hair, a big guy, right, heavyset guy with a big beard and mustache and long hair, and had the. You can tell by the cross that it was Eastern Orthodox. He's one of the more famous Eastern Orthodox Christian priests, and he was talking about all of that in an interview just not too long ago. Right, I think I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name right now, but he's famous. You read his name to me, and I'll tell you that's him. And he was talking, and I don't know if it was Tucker that he was on. He was on somebody's show. Could have been Sean Ryan. Could have been. It wasn't. It might have been. I don't remember. It was on one of those. Like it wasn't on. It wasn't on what's his name, Rogan. So it must have been Tucker Carlson, the TCN show, or on Sean Ryan, one of those two shows. I think it was Tucker though, and he was talking about the churches and how the progression of the kings and how they were using to this day Satanism to breed with that sexual right energy. By the way, that I was talking about, you guys saving for yourself so that you can uplift your mind and expand your consciousness. And they're actually using that on the kings to make sure that, and they have demons possessing these women that these kings breed with to make sure that they bring in a negative, evil spirit, somebody who's self-serving, to be the child of a self-serving king, to keep all of the families and all their lines of succession in place around the world. So that's another documentary you guys might want to be looking at, right? I think I found that one on your Facebook. Yeah, I think I've linked that one, Phyllis. I think I linked the one from today with Michael, what's his name, Nails. I don't remember if I linked that, but I'm pretty sure I linked the link to with the guy from the Eastern Orthodox Church. If you go down a few days, like a month, you'll probably find it, right? So I apologize. I'm going to take a bite of my cookie and eat that because I'm actually channeling right now. I'm actually talking to you as my higher self, and that burns up a lot of my blood sugar. And I've been on here for 2 hours now talking. Most people, if you go and see like Daryl Anka, his shows don't last more than an hour because this gets very taxing on the body. And my wife, who was at work, said I need to have something to eat. So I'm going to take a bite of my cookie and chew on it. And I apologize to anybody who gets offended by a human sitting on a camera eating. I have to recharge my blood sugar so that I can continue talking to you guys from this high level that I'm talking to you guys from. All right, so hold on. But please ask me questions and tap those screens so we can get some more people in here, and make sure you ask your questions, okay? Right, Phyllis? Yeah, if you scroll down my page a little bit, I think I linked that interview. I was born in the United States of America, Edberto. I was born in the United States of America in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am currently in New South Wales, Australia. That is where I live now. I apologize. I'm going to eat a little bit more of this cookie, okay? So please ask your questions. Yeah, that's why my accent is not Australian, but I am in Australia. Well, I'm just down 2 yogurts, right? I was eyeing the peanuts. I can't eat peanuts anymore. I wish. I can eat the peanut butters, but I can't have the chunks of peanuts. I ate too many peanuts when I was younger, and I have diverticulitis problems. Forgotten one. The evil people are going to try and do that, but they're not going to ever succeed in doing, right? He says, did the Freemasons in the Bible, right? And the Freemasons and the Jews complete the instructions in the Bible and create the relations events. No, there's a lot of stuff that they're trying to look at, right? How did you channel your higher self and raise your consciousness? That I talk about that in this book right here. How you do that is, that's what the podcast has been about so far until we get off on another subject. The foods that you eat, we call them ascension foods, okay? If you get the right nutrients, the minimum amount of the right nutrients that go into your brain actually expands, and you actually expand in your consciousness. When you do that, your IQ actually goes up. When you meditate, with all the techniques from the Middle East and the Far East in meditation, which has now come out to the West and people are learning it. Meditation and prayer is the same thing that your brain goes through. Thank you for that, Lisa. Thank you for that. As you do these things and you meditate, it raises your vibration. Your personality gets pulled up past the thinking mind, past the ego on the left shoulder, or the conscience on your right. That's the devil on the left shoulder, and the conscience and the angel on your right shoulder. Those are aspects of your consciousness, right, that give you this duality of light and darkness by doing dark things and doing good things, by stealing or lying or cheating and not. Those are the voices in your head that are dual aspect of yourself, and your thinking mind does the thinking that that your personalities are coming up with. You are not this pain body. You are not this thinking mind. You are an immortal soul, an immortal spirit that is energy, that is light, that is not residing in this body. Okay? But you think that you are when you're third dimension. So expanding your consciousness is moving from when you're born as a human, you are, I think, therefore I am. You're self-aware. You know you are something. That's the first awakening. Okay. Then the enlightenment, the true enlightenment that every single religion on the earth is talking about, that enlightenment is the expansion of your consciousness to the realization that you are not this physical plane. You are not this physical body. You are actually forever. That's how you start getting that veiling that has your memory erased to where you think you just are what's down here. But that starts expanding your consciousness and starts putting cracks in that veil. And the more you expand your consciousness into that spiritual realm, into the place of not religion, religion recruits you. I wrote that in my book. Religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it. When you move up into that place of this isn't all there is, and you start ascending this, if you are taking care of your body as a temple and feeding it properly and getting the right vitamins and minerals into your body, your brain will not shrink. Because the humans on this planet currently, your hippocampus and your brain shrinks like 24%. Your hippocampus gets smaller. As you get older, and by the time you become unalived at whatever age you are as an old person, your brain is smaller than it was when you were born. And why is that? Because you're not given the nutrients that you're supposed to. Bad people know about this. I call them the controllers in this book. This is the true story. Okay, so you can, by tracking this oil in your body, which is called the Christos, the Christ oil, has nothing to do with Jesus, although Jesus was coming as a representation of that to teach it. So did Lao Tzu, so did the Buddha, so did Moses, okay, so did Thor, whether you believe it or not, okay, so did many other people, Marduk, many other people came here to teach you this stuff. All religions knew about it. Okay, they all knew about it. I talk about that in this book right here, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. There's other books out there, and there's other people that talk about this. You track this Christ oil, it goes down your spine and up your spine once a month. If you track that and you take care of that, it expands your consciousness naturally. If you feed your body and feed your brain the proper nutrients, it doesn't shrink. It actually increases in size. You get smarter. Your IQ goes up. Your vibration goes up. Your mental awareness becomes more acute. And all of the mind wiping and the Jedi mind trick that they're doing to you down here and the distractions to keep you in the physical no longer has an effect on you. And you can see through their lies and you start realizing what's going on. Once that happens, you will expand your consciousness and you'll realize I am an immortal soul. Then at some point, you're going to go, well, if I'm immortal and I'm not Leonard O'Neill, because that's the physical body, then who am I? That's when you start getting into asking the question of not only realization, 4D, I am an immortal soul, but 5D, okay? No sex during the 3-day time period, yes. Right. Moses is the exact same story, Lloyd. You should look into the Moses story and the creation of Moses. Moses was born how? Moses ended up in a basket going down a river. There's other stories that have that same thing. The reason Moses was named Moses is because of the same thing. I'll call you Moses because we found you in the water. Moses then went and decided that he sacrificed himself from on high. Okay, the Hebrews they won't tell you this, but this is the actual hero story of him doing this. He was, because he was Jewish, they didn't know he was Jewish. He was raised as an Egyptian, a prince. But then he found out that he was not, that he was Hebrew. So he descended into the pits, descended down in station into the pits. And then he was found out. They found out about him, took him before the Pharaoh, and then they sent him out into the desert to become unalived. He wandered the desert, and depending on which scripture you read, you'll find that at some point he fell down as if unalived, but God rose him up and made sure that he had figs to eat, right? Or was it figs? No, it wasn't figs. It was the fruit of the palm tree. Is that a fig? No, it's not a fig. I can't think of what it's called right now. So he didn't. So he basically gave himself up and kept going because God told him to, until he fell down as if unalive, but he wasn't. Then he woke up. He was revitalized. He still hadn't talked to God yet, but he was revitalized. And then he found his way in this new land. And then he ended up seeing God, who sent him back. So God then lifted him up. It's the same story. Then sent him back. And you have originally, and you should look into this, Lloyd, because you and I have talked about scripture. Originally, there was only 7 plagues of Israel, and the Israelis, the Jewish people, added 3 more to make it 10. Okay, there was originally 7. That's the 7 chakras. So the 7 plagues of Israel is actually how to balance the chakra. The Hebrews did what God said. They were in service to others, and they did that thing. So if you look at all these plagues as, do this, if you do this, God will not punish you, but if you don't, God will punish you. That's the letters to the churches that came out of Patmos, that is in the New Testament. The letters to the churches that came out of Patmos is the same thing. I think what you were on air when I talked about that, right? So it was a fig tree? Okay. So yeah, it was a barren fig. Thank you. It was a fig tree, right? It was a barren fig. So, okay, so he actually survived off of that, though he was eating these figs that weren't even actually ripe yet. But he ate those and he didn't become unalive. So then he went back across the desert, right? Back over him was God's voice. And he said, do these things. God says, do these things, or else you're going to get into trouble. And all of these plagues happened. Pestilence, they were all the same plagues of what happens if you don't balance each chakra. So the first plague of God was not balancing the red ray root chakra. And it's the same as the first letter to the churches. First letter to the churches that came out of Patmos, the first church, the first letter to that church, and the red ray root chakra are synonymous. And if you balance and do what God says, then you get into heaven. It's the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where you have to have the gates, the name of the gatekeeping god, or whatever you wanted to call it, demon. And there are 7 gates that you have to go through to get to heaven. And you need to know the secret to give that person. You need to know the name and the riddle. And then you get to go to the next gate on the boat on the way back to heaven. It's all about balancing your chakras. So Moses went through the same process, slightly different than Jesus did, because he didn't end up on a cross. Okay. But he proverbially at this point, because in some versions, he actually fell down and become unalive, but God kept him alive, and he wasn't unalive. He was sleeping, and God woke him up. That's the actual vernacular they used in most ancient religions. If you look at Tiamat, when Marduk unalived Tiamat, she was not actually unalived. She was sleeping and ready to wake up at some point. That's what they did with all the frost giants and some of the giants. Okay. So if you look at that, Moses did the same thing, and then he said, if you don't do what God says, he'll utterly destroy you. And then he took the people, and they wandered the desert, and they went to the promised land, which is the land of milk and honey. Now that coincides with the oils that you secrete in your body. One is a honey-like substance, and one is a milk-like substance. One is masculine, one is feminine. One is charged with electricity, and the other one's charged with magnetism. That goes in your body. So he was taking them because God said, lead them to the land of milk and honey. So the 40 years was actually 30 years, and it's something that they've worked on. But it's because of the differences in time and the way they tell time. It was supposed to be the 33, as a matter of fact. Moses was also 33 years of age, even though he looked old. When he went up the hill and came down looking old, he was 33 years of age when he became the light of the world. The same as, so the story's slightly different, but if you're actually because you're a theologian If you're reading the different religions, you should be reading and seeing how those stories are. So the story of Moses being in the basket and going down the river was the same story as Immaculate Conception. They don't know who the mother was, but he was sent by God to be the Savior. That story is also in the Colburn Bible, Colburn with a K, that's in Scotland. The scrolls that are in that Bible came out of Egypt with Moses during the Exodus. Those scrolls ended up back in the New World, and monks from Scotland found them and got copies and took them back to Scotland and added them to the Bible. Because in the sagas from the Viking sagas, story of the sword and the stone is the same, by the way. The sword and the stone is your spinal column going down into the stone, but it also has the Savior character that has to go down a river. Okay, so it's the same thing, but that story isn't the story of Moses. The Egyptians claim that story was prior to Moses. So that's why some people say, well, they just borrowed that story from an older civilization and had Moses go down the river. Okay, and that was the same thing of, think about this now. Moses, I think we talked about this before. Moses was supposed to be born, and the pharaohs knew about it, and so they had all of the Hebrews go to their place and be counted so they can find out the firstborn sons. Same story of Jesus and Joseph and Mary had to go back to their hometown to be counted, because the king at the time, the Hebrew king, I think it was the Hebrew king. Yeah, it was Herod, the senior. Herod the Elder, he had heard of a time when there was supposed to be a savior who was going to end his reign. So he wanted to know who the firstborn sons were, because he was looking for Jesus, but he didn't make it back home. He ended up in the manger and was born there. Same kind of storyline. Moses did the same, but instead of traveling with mom and dad, he was given up to the river and sent down the river, and he was taken out of the river. In the same way, Moses went down the river, down the spine, to Bethlehem. That's what they called that part of the spine, the 5 vertebrae that are fused. I talk about it in this book, that are fused at the bottom of your thing, right? So, yeah, that Moses was the representative or earthly proxy, yes, of God to the Israelis in Egypt. Yeah, so you're understanding what I'm saying. So he went on that same selfless hero journey to become Christed by God, and to deliver the people out of darkness into the light. So it's the same story, but 4,000 years earlier, or 3,000, however many thousands of years that was. I think it was 2,000 or 3,000 years earlier in the time of Moses, for the Hebrews, for the Israelites. And then Jesus was reenacting that the same way that Marduk prior to that was reenacting that, and the way these different deity figures, Thor reenacted it in those sagas. And the religion of the Vikings is older than the Christian religion. Okay, they just didn't write it down until the 1100s. Before that, it was spoken. Doesn't mean it didn't exist. It's just that obsession that is still today, that if you don't have a piece of paper with something written on it, it's not real, thinking that it has to be written down or it doesn't exist, so let it be written, so let it be done. The same thing with today in the modern day. We need the American government in America to tell us aliens exist or they don't exist, because the Americans haven't disclosed it to us yet, right? It's not like we can't look up and go, look, that's like an alien ship or something, dude. No, it's not. No, it's not. The government said it was not. Do you see my point? So if somebody just lies to you and says that's not the sun, are we supposed to believe that's not a star, right? So that's just crazy if you think about it, right? Exodus 9:12, but the Lord hardened the heart of the Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them, right? Well, it was a good thing, forgotten one, that the Pharaoh, because the Pharaoh basically kept everything going by not, saying, execute this man, right? And then if you're talking about the part where Moses was saying, hey, no, you got to stop doing that. And, out of your mouth will be the next plague on Egypt. And he didn't listen. And then he said, unalive all their firstborn sons. And then we had the creeping death, right? Yeah, right. And then he put hell upon the people of Egypt. Yeah. God did that. God, yes, you're right. Absolutely. That's my point. But who was God's voice on earth? Same thing, right? Jesus is the spoken word of God. Jesus is the voice of God. Therefore, he is the God. It's the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. In nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Okay. He's the Word of God, and Jesus was the Word, and the Word was with God. Therefore, Jesus is God. Moses was the Word of God. He said, Lord, when he told him up on the mountain, go back and say these things to Egypt. Lord, I don't have the words. I don't know what to say. And God said, fear not, I will be your words. I will give you the words. So he became the Word of God now. Moses was the Word of God, and God was speaking through Moses. It wasn't Moses talking. When he went and talked to the Pharaoh, God was telling him what to say. God was speaking through him, so he became the Word of God. It's the same story. Jesus became the voice of God. Moses was the voice of God. It's just a different telling at a different time period for different people, but it's the same. It's the same thing. As a theologian, most theologians should be looking for that, but instead they're looking for similarities in a scroll and then saying they must have borrowed this story. What if they didn't borrow the story? What if the story is being retold by the same Spirit coming down here, by the same Creator sending down someone in physical form to represent the Creator in different places at different times with different names, telling the story slightly different because it's a different people in a different time in a different place who speak a different language and have a different culture, but telling them the same story in a way that they can understand. What if that's what's happening? Not the other way around, and then somebody picked up a scroll that some guy wrote 10,000 years ago, and they went, that's a good one, but we got to change that God's name and that God's name and this God's name. Okay. But here's the scary part. Let's say this is like the Big Bang Theory and spermiation. Let's say that some dude sat down 100,000 years ago and wrote that story. That story meant so much to this earth that it's still being told today the same way. Okay. And that's what I say to every theologian when we get into this conversation. It doesn't matter. The message is the most important thing, not who wrote it first. Because when you get to the first guy, is he going to go, I, Ezekiel, aka hoka haka, cuckoo kaka kaka, wrote this story first and we're going to believe him? And this story is, and then you're going to read the story that's going to be a different version of the Christ story from around the world. And you're going to go, well, that guy claims he was the first one. I don't think he really was. Because you could always just say that because we're not backwards in time. So then they're going to go, yeah, well, we found an older scroll, but this guy claims he was the first one. Chances are he's not. Let's keep looking, because that's all they do. Why is that? Because they don't want you looking at what was written. They don't want you studying what was written, right? Just as the apostles were vessels and by God speaking his word. Yes, the same. Okay. Right, Lloyd? The same. So you have to realize that we're supposed to, as below, as above, so below. We are supposed to emulate that which is the spiritual way out of here. Okay, you can believe me not and stay in 3D for all of your eternity. And I don't care. I'm not here to be the Christ. I'm not here to save you. I have tools. And I'm going like this. Here's a tool. Here's this. Right here is a coffee table in front of us. On that coffee table is a key. That key works in the only door in this room that someone keeps telling you not to go out. When you get tired of sitting in this room, pick up that key, walk over to that door and unlock that door and watch how many people tell you don't go open in it. Don't open that door. Don't open that door. It's going to get you. It's the Leviathan. It's the dragon of the North Sea. It's a demon. It's the devil. It's anything bad. Don't open it. Lilith, Satan, boogeyman, whatever. Don't open it. It's going to get you. Going to eat you. Aliens, whatever you believe, it's going to make you afraid. That's what it is. And you can go and sit back down and leave that door sitting there until eventually you're going to get up and walk out that door. And when you do, you're going to find out that's all you had to do. That's all you had to do, right? Ooh, how dreadful for the pyramid. Well, the pyramid was actually built to expand your consciousness. There was never any body in it, right? New International Version or Depart from Me, you workers of lawlessness. Yeah, it depends on, and that's the other thing too. Forgotten one is, that each version of that, whether it's the KJV, and now they have the new KJV, from what I understand, I haven't read it, the Ethiopian version, the Eastern Orthodox version, the New International Version, the New American Version, or the Orthodox Christian, whichever one that you read, the wording is going to be slightly different because they're interpreting the words a little bit different, and they're trying to tell you, well, we're just doing that. I'm going to take another bite of my cookie. We're just doing that so that you understand it better. But isn't it making it worse, right? Isn't it making it worse, right? So yeah, you got to look at you got. Yeah, I know, but maybe we're going to make a new one with what I'm saying, right? Not inspired versus NIV, right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, all right. So the pyramid of the verse. He said Vatican. You're saying version. So hold on. I apologize. I got to keep my blood sugar level up. So let me get back on track with you can spend your entire life. I just watched this with different people that are scholars, historians, and theologians arguing online. Right, Lloyd and I can sometimes do this, and we start going back and forth. You get caught speaking in tongue. I have a version of this. Lloyd, back me on this. I believe the speaking in tongue was not just language barriers. I think speaking in tongue had just as much to do with opinion. Look at the time of Jesus. Let's just go to the Christian doctrine. The time of Jesus, the Sanhedrin, and I'm using this as an example so that you see where I'm going with this. The Sanhedrin at the time had different groups in the Sanhedrin that believed in different things. You had different organizations like the Pharisees and the this and that. They had the different ones. I don't remember what all of them were called at the time. Some were conservatives, some were Orthodox, right? Hasidics, right? You had the Hasidic Jews, you had the Orthodox Jews, then you had those who were worried about translating the Bible for the common man to make sure that they would keep their economy running. Controversial topics, I know, right? But here's my point. It becomes controversial because everybody's opinion will fit into one of those categories, and they would merge into those little gangs, right? And then what they would do is they would argue and vie for control of the Sanhedrin, and they never got anything done. It's the same thing that happens with governments, right? You have representation in your government, depending on where you are. You have people that are representing you that are in these Congress, in the Senate, whatever you call it in your country, and they're all arguing over their idea of an idea. And some of them are worried more about economy. Some of them are worried more about history. Some of them are worried more. Let's look at the judges in the Supreme Court in the United States of America. Some of them are old school. This is what the Constitution said, and they're constitutionalists. And then others are more progressive, and others are more conservative, and they have their ideology. It's the same thing. The problem with theology is the same thing. You have apologists, then you have your orthodoxy, then you have your forward looking, and because of that, nobody's actually reading what it is. There's no one's looking at what is this all about. They're trying to interpret it from the standpoint of getting in an argument over linguistics. People, that happens in here, right, Lloyd? We've had that same conversation. And you've heard me talk about it. People get, Yahweh versus Jesus. That's the same word. It's just spoken in a different language. So the problem is that people do that and they get caught up not realizing what they're saying is the same word, right? It's like saying, you say the word twice. Like, what was it I was watching? And there was this it was in the movie Ripped, R-A-P-D, with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I think it was in there. And the guys that were investigating and the guys that were investigating said, your unit, and the unit was, what was it that it was? It was like the something unit, but it was an acronym. So it was, your narcotics, NYU unit. And she says, it's not unit. You just said unit. The acronym means unit, and then you added a unit at the end. So the problem is that people are doing that with language and then interpretation instead of actually looking at what is the content. And I get, as a theologian, you know this as well as I do, I get that we have to go through the translation properly to find out what they were saying. The problem is that there's so many different translations into the different words coming down to us now when you go backwards, that people, if they don't look, which they don't do, they take on face value what somebody says online. And then that makes my job harder. It makes Lloyd, because Lloyd's a scholar, makes your job harder, because they'll go, Jesus isn't his name. And you're like, oh, Jesus. No, you're taking the Lord's name in vain. Stop it. The name Yahshua means Jesus. Now, no, it doesn't. And if you're a linguist, in any way, you know that that's how it traces back, right? But if you're not, then people get mad at you. The same thing happens with scholars, depending on their camp, depending on where they, like my brother is in a theological college. He just graduated like a month ago now. But he's in a Christian theological college. So for the 3 years that he was in there, or the 4 years that he was in there to get his bachelor's degree and his ministry title, I'm talking to him from a non-denominational, even though I was a Christian, I am a Christian minister, and I was knighted by the Holy Roman Catholic Church, which makes me a minister and a monk in that version. And I have that title. I don't look at theology from the slant of Christianity. Sometimes I use that because there are more people on the planet that will understand that vernacular talking about New Testament, Old Testament, because there's 5 billion of the 8 billion people who understand that because they call themselves Christians. So it's easier, it's harder to read the room. For those people who don't know anything about Christianity, they might get mad if I use that as an example. That's why I try to go to the other religions as well. Okay? But my point is, they'll get mad. He was saying, he looks at me, and I've said this before. He looks at me and he says, do you know that the Hebrew Bible is not even a Bible? It's an apocrypha. He says this to me about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I looked at him and I said, you're right. It is an apocrypha. You know what that means? And he's like, well, it means it's not real. And I said, that's right. In Christianity, your religion isn't real either, because your religion only can exist if the Hebrew religion is real. Because your religion was spawned from that religion and is based on that religion to be active. Jesus can't exist as anything besides a hippie unless he's fulfilling the check marks from the Hebrew Talmud that makes him a Christ. Because they're the ones who foretold it in their apocrypha. And my brother went, wait. And I went, okay, so stop judging and start looking at content and what the meaning is, not who wrote it, when they wrote it, and whether it's true or not. Authenticate it as you go, and then say this is fake or this is not real. But don't judge that and say, well, that sounds like this other one that I read from this other people. Okay, what if they were just telling you the same story by the same God in a different language, in a different time, in a different place by a different person? But the story seems pretty similar. So because it seems similar, these people want to say that they stole it. Okay, well, if they stole it, let's deal with that. If they stole it, it's because it sounded right. Okay, so if I were sitting here and I said, guess what? This is what's called daytime, because I'm in Australia. There's a thing that's called nighttime, and the lights go outside, and there's just twinkling ones way up there. That's called night. So if I write that down, and then you're experiencing it, and I hand you a piece of paper, and you go, hey, this is exactly what I'm experiencing too. Then you take that back to somebody else and go, look, here's a writing. But I had to translate it into our language because I got from this other guy who didn't speak the way we spoke, but I understand him. But I'm going to translate it to our language. Now, does that make that what he's saying fake? Because he copied it from some other guy? Is what he's saying in there true or untrue? Does it make it untrue that now it's nighttime and there's a thing that's called darkness? No, it's still nighttime. It's still a thing called darkness, and he's trying to show you that someone else knew about that too. Okay, so that's what I try to tell people. In this book, I talk about that. That's what I try to tell people. I'm like, look, maybe you should pay more attention to the content of what's being said than who said it, when they said it, where it was written, and by who. Because it seems like they're all saying the same thing. When you get out of your own way and stop looking at who wrote it, when they wrote it, and who wrote the oldest one, what the fuck did they write? What did they write about? And you're going to find out that when you do that and compare those, like we just did with Moses, right, Lloyd? We went through that little thing. Moses and both being the Christ and the Word of the God. Without one had a crucifixion, the other one did not, but also had a unaliving and resurrection, and becoming the voice of God and leading everybody out of darkness into the light. It's the same story being told slightly different. But if you don't look at it from that standpoint, you would think those two people have nothing in common, except for Moses delivered the Talmud that became the Hebrew Bible, in which foretold of the coming of a Christ that claimed that they claimed didn't come, but theirs never came. Weirdly, are they still waiting for it? Because at the exact time their book said there was going to be a Christ, there was this guy who stood up. And there's 5 billion people who believe he was the one that came from that book. But the people who have that book say, nah, not yet, nah. Okay? They get very Aussie on everybody all of a sudden. And they go, yeah, nah. Or they go, not yet, nah. Right? All of a sudden they just go, no. And then I love to look at rabbis and go, well, then where did your Christ go? He just didn't show? He missed the bus? What happened? Because it was foretold for thousands of years on this day, at this time, and when people stood at that bus stop on that day at that time and looked up, dude came riding in on a burro, just like the book said he was gonna. So how could that not be the one? Because we couldn't control, because he was in our way, because, money, power, never mind, just pray, right? Think about that, right? Just as I love this, I wish it would have been here sooner. Thank you, Jess. Right, but it's the truth. This is why I'm here, right? Somebody earlier said, you're the only person that's talking about this, so that we can understand it. That's why I came here. Okay, I came here to do just that. I'm gonna have to eat another cookie, guys, because now it's been another half an hour. So I got to get my blood sugar level up, or my blood sugar level will get too low, because I am coming from a very high place of. Thank you very much. Who gave me that? Jess gave me that. Thank you very much. And Lisa gave me that one before, and I didn't see it. Thank you for that earlier. Hold on, I have to take another bite of my cookie to get my blood sugar to get back up, because I've been on here now for 2.5 hours and I've only had one cookie in 2.5 hours. So I'm going to take another bite. I apologize for anyone who gets offended by this. Okay. Try to find me somebody that can channel for you for more than an hour without having to stop and get something to eat. Thank you very much. Love gave me that. I love you for that name. Love, what is that? Love remembers. Great name. Love that name. Okay. So, how do we get out of this matrix? The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. Second thing to know is your focus determines your reality. Third thing to know is your body is a temple and you need to treat it as such. The fourth thing to know is you are not this pain body. You want to go to 4D? That's why I waited to the fourth thing for that. You want to get out of 3D and go into 4D? You have to wake up to the realization that this is not me. This is not who I am. This is an avatar. The first awakening is, I think, therefore I am. You wake up, you're in this world, somebody pulls you out, smacks you on the butt, you start crying, that hurt. Right? I did a video on that from my last live. I posted that. You start crying, you're solidified in 3D. I think, therefore I am. Ancient Greek proverb. That's the first step, your first awakening. I am alive and I am worth something. I don't want to just be unalived. I think, therefore I am. You're supposed to move forward to the realization of, I am something else besides this. I am, therefore I think. I am an immortal spirit that is forever, a light being that is forever, that is running this avatar. This is not who I am. When this shell passes away, I am still forever. That is 4D. That is your second awakening. That is the next awakening, the illumination that was promised by the Christ, by Jesus, but by everyone else. That is the illumination. That is the awakening. That is the promised land. That is the land of milk and honey. How do I get there? That's by realizing that the first step of a trap is realizing in its existence. That's how you avoid the trap. Realize you're in it. The second thing, you can get out of here because your focus determines your reality. What you focus on determines how long you stay here. Thirdly, focus on this body is a temple. This brain is a temple. To get out of this body and this brain and unlock it, I have to feed it the proper nutrients. How do I do that? I take care of it. I eat the right things. Talked about that earlier. You can go back and listen to the podcast after this on the replay, either on Facebook or on YouTube or on anywhere you listen to an MP3 broadcast. You just won't be able to see me. Okay. and you can get those nutrients that you need. The Christ oil, which is in this book right here, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, by me, Leonard O'Neill. You can get that all online everywhere. It costs you $3.99 or $4.99, depending on what country you're in, if you want to get it on ebook or Kindle or one of those things. Okay. Otherwise, you have to listen to hundreds of hours of my podcast to hear all the information that was in here. I talk about it all the time. I've been talking about it today. Christ oil, look it up. Find out the Christ oil. It's in my book. It's also in God Man, the Bible Made Flesh, by some people that wrote it in the 1940s. Everyone's talking about it. I have a friend who's talking about this. His name is McGalvery is his last name. He's a Freemason. He just published a book just last month that talks about he even talks about the letters to the churches being the how to balance your chakras. Okay. He's a Freemason though. I'm not a Freemason. I'm a Colombian Knight. Okay. Yeah. The chakras. So you got to balance your chakras, learn what they are. The chakra, everyone wants to tell you, I talk about it when I'm teaching you Reiki right here. When I'm teaching you Reiki 1, 2, and 3, chakras were not invented by Hinduism. Those words are from that language. And that's what everybody knows now is the word chakra. But everybody knew what those things were. The Greeks called it a spindle wheel. The word they used was kirkos, which is where we right now in English get our word circle. Came from the Greek word kirkos, circle. Okay, so they knew that it was the spindle wheel. In the Bible, you hear it being told as a wheel within a wheel. Okay, so the Hebrews knew about it, wheel within a wheel. The Greeks knew about it, kirkos, spindle wheel. Okay, so too did the Japanese. The Japanese had a version of it. They called it Mitsubishi. Right? Do you know the car Mitsubishi? Look at the emblem for the Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi means 3 diamonds. Mitsubishi, 3 diamonds. 3 diamonds is the symbol for the car. The Japanese spiritual way is Mitsubishi. 3 diamonds. 1 diamond, bottom 3 chakras, physicality, physical plane, body. Upper chakra, 3 chakras of the upper part of the body, spiritual, mind, body, and soul or heart. So the 3rd chakra is the heart chakra. Okay. So the 3rd diamond is the chakra. You polish all 3 of those diamonds, Mitsubishi, balance those 3 aspects of yourself, mind, body, soul, and you will ascend to heaven. So they knew about it. They just didn't have individual 7 chakras. They had 3 diamonds, physicality, spirituality, the blending of the 2, body, mind, and soul. Okay. So literally every country in the world knew about it, and they wrote about it in their spiritual ways. I'm a theologian. It's my job to learn this junk, right? I love it, though. Talk about it all the time. My teacher, I wish them another scary, jealous Mason weren't scared to tell me the secret of a master, right? Well, the Freemasons, just like the Knights of Columbus, we also, like, I'm not supposed to tell you about all of the stuff we learn in the schooling. It's also a secret society, right? I'm not supposed to tell you about the knighting, because there's 4 levels of a knight in knighthood in the Colombian Knights to become knighted, right? So we're not supposed to talk about that stuff. And the reason that we're not supposed to talk about that is not that it is a secret that you don't get to know. It is because you're not supposed to know it, because you have to learn the lesson. It's the same thing with the Freemasons and the Knights Templars. If I cheat and tell you, you're not going to organically learn the lesson. And this is a great analogy. Here's an allegory for you. Okay. To learn the lesson to become a knight or a Freemason or a Temple Knight, you have to organically learn the lessons, or they don't mean anything. If I tell you what 10 times 10 equals, and it's on a test for you tomorrow, you're not going to learn. You're going to learn how to cheat and get that answer from somebody else, but you didn't get that answer on your own. Do you see? So the reason for these things where they don't want to tell you secrets is they know that you need to go through this process of learning these steps to make sure that you understand, not just learn something to parrot it. You can teach a parrot to go, asshole, asshole. Does that parrot actually understand what it's saying and what it means? Okay. Why is that parrot saying it? Because someone told it to say it over and over and over and over. So if somebody says jump up when I say the word jump, 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 just like the guys from the song, right? From the song, jump, 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 everybody jumped. Do you understand what that word means? Why are you jumping? What does that word mean? You don't know because they just told you to jump and you did it. They go, raise your hands in the air, right? Bring down the house. Why am I doing that? What is the act of me doing that? Does it have a meaning? If it doesn't, you're just jumping because it's music. You're just jumping because it's music. But if there's a deeper meaning, they need to make sure that you understand it. Okay? So the same thing goes for, and here's your allegory, the same thing goes for the way to ascend. I can give you information, but if you don't live it, it's not going to do anything for you. We tell people, like, when people go, well, I had this Reiki master that somebody told me that they did Reiki on them and it like made them worse and made them like possessed. No, but Reiki, if somebody is in service to self, they can't do Reiki because Reiki is not something that is given to someone who is evil. Even if I tried to attune you as a Reiki master or a Reiki 1 or a Reiki 2, if you're self-serving, you're not going to get what I get. I'm actually going to give somebody who's not in service to self. You're not. You're going to then have abilities, but the abilities will do bad things to people because you're already an energy vampire because you're in service to self. Okay, so you can get the certificate or make one up for yourself and pretend that you are, but you're not going to actually be able to Reiki anyone. The only thing you can do is steal their energy as a vampire. Okay, you have to be in service to others and be on that path. To weed out those people, you need to teach them because then you can see those who are in it for the prestige or the title or something else, and you weed them out. In the Knights of Columbus, you get weeded out by the third, attunement, like, for lack of a better word, becoming a third degree knight. By that time, you have to be invited to be knighted. Okay, so that means you have to be picked by people who are not self-serving, because there was a time back during, if you watch the movie the Kingdom of Heaven, Guy de Lucion and his brother, they were evil. They got knighted because they volunteered to be knights, and they went there, but they were self-serving, started a war, went through that whole debacle. After that time period, all knights had to be vetted before they could become knights, because we didn't want to have knights any longer who were evil robber knights in the order. Okay, so you're vetted before you get there. So you have to be. That's a great movie. I love that movie too, because the knighting in that movie, in the Kingdom of Heaven, is actually the creed that you get. I had the script, right? And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's like almost word for word. And then he backhands that guy and he says, and that's so that you don't forget it. They still do that. They just don't smash your face, but they used to. So that movie, when he knights those guys, is actual. Okay, but he did it because they were fighting and they had to. And that's when the guy said to him, just make a man a knight, make him a better fighter. And he looked at the guys, and he looked back at him and went, yes. Okay. And, love that movie. That's a great movie. Then you asked Ridley Scott, who wrote it or who directed it, produced it and directed it. And he said it was more of a documentary than, because it's true. That story, if you look it up in history, the only thing that story they're not 100% sure of is that Balian was actually Godfrey's son. But they existed at the same time. And the events that you see taking place, thank you for that, Petra. The events that you see take place in that movie are actual. You can look them up in history. That events actually happened the way you see it. Okay. So that movie's real, about real people that really happened in real life. Okay. Great movie. Love that movie. Okay. So you have to live the life and walk in the shoes to be chosen, and you have to be vetted, because this is a serious matter. And the same thing goes for Reiki, right? So I tell people, if you're self-serving, don't bother me with trying to fool me, because you can't fool the universe. So it's not going to work for you. But I'll take your money if you want to go through the motions and you want to prove to yourself, I'm going to get something from this guy. Ha ha ha. I'll take your money and I'll actually attune you. And then you can do whatever you want with it, because you're not going to get what you're supposed to get from me. You'll only get the package that self-serving people get. Okay? Because that's the way it works. There's two packages of enlightenment that you get in this third dimensional illusion, Now, this is me talking to you as Kelto here from the 11th. There are two packages that you get here. You either get the self-serving one or you get the in service to others package. Okay. That's why people that are in service to others, they go, why did that guy do that? Why is that guy, why would somebody just murder people? Why would somebody do that? I can't say that word that starts with an R and ends with a P, ends with a PE, but the word ends with a P sound. You know what I'm talking about, where they violate someone. Why would they do that? And they go, I don't understand why they did that. You don't. You don't understand why they did that because you're not self-serving. You're in service to others, so you have no idea what makes them work, what makes them tick. Okay? My job is to know that. I'm a tactician. My job is to know that. What makes them tick? You want to know why they did that? Power, control, money, fame. That is what they are, living in the flesh. They did it because they can. They did it to dominate you. They did it to get their rocks off. They did it to increase themselves on an evil level. That's true. Okay? That is true. And most of you have no idea. That's why we teach defense against the dark arts. Everybody in the world should know this, right? We use that term, defense against the dark arts, because everybody knows it from the movies and the books, right? But everybody should be learning how to defend yourself against evil people. By the time you're 10, you should have all this knowledge. Okay? Truly. Truly. And we do it online, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Okay? 2-day Zoom course. Bing. Okay? If you guys want to learn the defense against the dark arts, email us at Merlin and Maeve at gmail.com. We're going to be scheduling them, and we try to put like one a week, sometimes 2 a week, depending on how, because it's really popular. Once people start realizing it and they start talking to other people that were in the class, they all want to get into it, right? Where are the altar and the prayer? What are you saying? Where's my altar and the prayers? I'm not sure. Maybe I missed something you were asking before that, Petra. So I'm not sure if that is taken out of context. I apologize if I missed something before that. I'm going to take another bite of my cookie here while I figure that out. If you have more of a specific question, please ask me, and I'll see if we can figure out what you were saying there. Right? I'm going to take a bite. Sorry, I apologize. I need blood sugar. If I don't keep that up, I won't be able to keep going. It's been 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I'm still, channeling. Most people will only channel for a few seconds. And my wife just popped in and she'll start yelling at me and say, eat another cookie. Who are the Jesuits? The Jesuits are an order inside the Roman Catholic Church. But what you hear the Jesuits are is probably not what they really are. Thank you, Jess. I'm trying to teach the reality about reality, how to get out of here in a basic, comprehensive way, because it's been secreted and it has been occulted and people don't understand it. You know what I mean? I don't like the way people have been telling about it. It sounds like my wife is on her way home. Is she on her way home? Somebody's doing something. I think it's my wife. I think Brooke's in the car on her way home. I love you, baby. So, thank you for that, right? So we are co-creating, so we are the altar and the prayers. Yes, agreed. I wasn't sure what you were asking because I've been talking about a lot of stuff. But yes, we are the altar and the prayers. Our focus determines our reality. Thank you, baby. There's my wife. She's just popped that up there. Brooke O'Neill is my wife. You should follow her too. So, yeah, the reality of reality is, reality of reality, returning to the old ways is my book right here. What is the reality about reality? Not the reality of reality. The reality about reality. Here, let me pull this up on the screen so you can see it. Because if you Google the reality of reality, it's wrong. The reality about reality, returning to the old ways by me, Leonard O'Neill. Okay. So the reality about reality, not the reality of reality. The reality about reality. What's really going on here? What is really happening to you? None of this is happening to you. All of this is happening for you. Okay. I'm going to take another bite of my cookie. So if you guys have any other questions, please type them in the chat here for me, and tap those screens so we can get some more people in here. I keep forgetting to do that while I'm talking on my other phone, but let me take get my blood sugar level up because now I got a cat in my lap. Look at this. Hi, baby. This is Orion. This is little baby Orion. She's the little baby kitty. I gotta put you down, okay? I love you. That's little baby Orion. She's a black cat. She has a little patch, a little piece of white right here, and then a little bit of white on her belly and the little tip of her tail. Right on the tip of her tail, there's a little bit of white. She's a cutie. She was born in February. She's our little baby. I had a black kitten pregnant with a female. Yeah, love those. We have friends that had a black female and a black male, and Brooke said we got to have a black cat, right? I said okay, right? Merlin and Maeve, come on, right? Druids, Druid, Wiccan priest and priestess. So see, that's contradiction in terms when it comes to the church. They would excommunicate me because I'm a priest in another form of spirituality that's identical to theirs, only told differently to a different group of people on another place that they tried to convert, by the way, by saying, "Look, your God and our God are identical." Yeah, think about that, right? Lloyd backed me on this, right? So the Roman Catholic Church. I'm also a minister in the Christian religion and was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. So don't get me thinking, or don't think that I'm some sort of atheist or something. The Roman Catholic Church goes over to Europe and tries to convert the Scandinavians, all the Vikings in Europe. So to do that, they show the parallels between Jesus and Thor, between Jesus and Santa Claus. And they go, look, your God is our God because the things that Odin did are the same things that Jesus did. So they literally compared notes to get them to convert to Christianity, okay? And then say that their religion isn't real, but they use the fact that they're so similar. The religion of what they call the Bohemian religion is actually thousands of years older than the Christ story, right? So weirdly, but it's the same. But see, as a theologian, I tell you they're all the same. They're all the same. There is that hero story, another book that you might want to look at that I haven't read all of, that I'm going to have to get, but I've listened to the man for years, Joseph Campbell. And he wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. It's like this thick. I'm going to have to get a copy of it. I left my whole library is in California at my sister's house. I'm going to have to get a whole new library over here. I just haven't started doing it yet. What is this? The forgotten one say Matrix movie creator Oracle Destiny. The Matrix movie, the creator of that movie was trying to tell you exactly the same thing about the Christ oil and you being stuck in this matrix and your focus determines your reality. But the bad guys stole that script from him and made the movie that they did, and then made that a movie franchise, and then morphed it and stole it and destroyed it, and basically said the AI God is the true God and AI is beautiful. And that's what they did with that story. But the premise of the first movie is you're stuck in a matrix, but they changed it, and you're stuck in a matrix with a thing stuck in your brain and a pile of goo, and there's aliens eating your energy. That's just not what was originally being told. But he was trying to get it past the censors by giving you this allegory about that, so that he could then give you other informations in the rest of the story, which are still in there. If you look at that entire storyline, Neo was Jesus. John the Baptist was Morpheus. Okay, and you'll see even what's his name, Lawrence Fishburne will tell you that it was Lawrence Fishburne. I can't think if it was him. The actor that played Morpheus will tell you the same story, that it was the story of Jesus. You even had the guy turning them in being the Judas character. Okay, so it was just a retelling of the Christ story. It's still the same thing, like the Hero with a Thousand Faces. It's the same storyline being told to you of the same thing. You could take that and turn it into a religion in 1,000 years, and then it would become a theology, and people would be comparing it, right? Yeah, everlasting. Yes, because you're supposed to be. That's your next awakening. Your illumination is supposed to be when you realize, I am not the thinking mind. I am not this physical body. I am an immortal. I am something that is forever, and this is just an avatar. That's your next level of awakening. Your first level of awakening was to realize, I think, therefore I am, and then you're a human, and you're like trying to figure this out. Then eventually you're supposed to realize, I am, therefore I think. Okay. What about Albert Pike and the 3 World War prediction? The World War, anything that's prophecy where they're trying to predict a third world war has been created,
Hi,
written
everybody.
and created. There's my wife.
Hi,
There's
baby.
Brooke.
Love you.
Love you. So anything that's prophecy telling about a destruction of the world and all of that, that was created by the controllers. That's what I call them in this book. The reality about reality, returning to the old ways. They know that your focus determines your reality. Your focus, my focus, our collective consciousness, our collective focus determines the reality here. Look at Matthew, right? What was that? Lloyd, was it Matthew 21:8 or something like that? Matthew 18 to 24. Okay, look in Matthew, and in that you're told in there's that line that you hear where Jesus says in there, that's just in that religion, but it's everywhere. What you do on earth, what you sow on earth, I shall too sow in heaven. What you reap on earth, I shall too reap in heaven. That means we are creating the new heaven and the new earth. We're co-creating here. Bad people know that. So if they can convince everybody that there's going to be a world war and we're all going to become unalive, we will manifest that. So anything that you hear where somebody is manifesting or trying to manifest destruction, that is done by evil people on purpose. God did not say that. Evil people said that God say that. That's just like they tell you, Jesus said, wait here, I'm going to go get a truck. There is nowhere in the Bible that Jesus said, hold on, stay here for a second, I'm going to be back, and there's going to be a second coming of me. It's not true. The line they use is also in John and Matthew, right after that other part. Okay. And that's when they say, when will the illumination happen? When will true enlightenment happen? And he says, I tell you truly, right? My Father said, I shall come like a thief in the night. They use that line and try to say that's where Jesus said he's coming back. Okay. And that's not, he didn't say, I'm telling you. He says, my Father said, okay, that I should come like a thief in the night. He was talking about your illumination. He was talking about your illumination of your awakenedness, not the rapture. Okay. And then they just start trying to morph all that stuff, right? Yes, God is the creator, right? Well, I mean, you can look at that. You could call that character whatever you want, right? Depends on whether you believe in the polytheistic or monotheistic, right? If you believe there's many gods, then you're gonna say there's all this different tiers of levels of these gods, because then when they do that, like say with Tiamat is what they call the primordial ooze. Tiamat was the nothingness before the earth was formed. So then they say Tiamat is a dragon because the most scary thing to people thousands of years ago was this fabled dragon that had fire, that could breathe fire. So Tiamat is this giant, and this giant beastie giant, and chaos and destruction. And that was just the primordial ooze. It was the time before the earth was solid. It was gas and it was on fire. So there was this primordial ooze, this cosmic craziness. And then Marduk was the one who ordered all of that and unalived that giant. But the giant's not unalive. The giant's just sleeping, and we're living in the skull of the giant. That's what the stories tell you. That's stories that you're telling to uneducated people who have no grasp of the concept of what's going on in the universe at all, let alone how this planet was at one time not, dried and sitting here the way it is now, right? James, thank you for those roses, right? So literally, how would you explain that to a 3-year-old who doesn't even understand that we're floating on the top of crust, which is floating on top of mantle that is molten lava, an ocean of fire that we're floating on sitting here, and we don't realize it because it seems like it's hard. How do you explain that to a child who has no education? So you're reading scriptures as if everyone back then knew as much about the universe as you know now, assuming that they knew that, and therefore Tiamat had to be a goddess, creator of the universe. She was literally what they called the ether, primordial ooze. She was that which became a fire, which then cooled, which then became a rock, which then grew shit on, and that's where we're at. Okay? So people don't realize that. So because they didn't understand that. 10,000 years ago, these people didn't know how the universe worked. We barely know how the universe works, and we're guessing at that shit. So if we think that everything was on fire and then it was a gas that collided, started spinning around and turned to a ball of fire, and then eventually burned itself out and cooled into this husk that we're sitting on, but it's not really unalived, it's just sleeping because it's still molten on the inside. And we're living there, and we're on the skull of this big sleeping giant that used to be Tiamat. And then the teeth of Tiamat are the mountains, and the blood of Tiamat is the rivers and the waters. Okay? And Tiamat's this big dangerous thing that's still unalive, but not, just sleeping. And every now and then she starts to wake up, and a volcano goes off and an earthquake happens. Okay? That's the stories of what they told people. God was in the mountain of Mount Sinai. When God was present in the mountain rumbled, and there was steam and fire and volcano, and the mantle came spewing out as lava. God's in the island. God is here today. That's how far back that goes. As a scientist, I look at that and I would say, so the volcano was erupting. Now it's God, because it was the biggest, scariest thing that they knew, and that no one could get near it because it would burn you to cinders. And it was very volatile and very dangerous. And they had heard these creation stories of a unalived, not unalived, sleeping, not unalive, but sleeping God who every now and then stirs when he doesn't like what you're doing. Okay, those are stories that you tell children so that they believe in something that is huge. How do you explain the universe to somebody who doesn't understand the word universe and what that means? Do you see? Okay, question. Who is responsible for all the corruption? Are you talking about like in the world? Evil people. There's a dynamic on this planet. On this planet, there are 86% of the population that are in these bodies are in service to others. 14% of the population, the souls that are in those bodies, are in service to self. They are self-serving, and that is considered evil by the universe. Okay? Those people who are evil, baby evils to Genghis Khan evil, Adolf Hitler evil, baby evil to, stealing, lying, cheating, controlling people, little baby evil to murdering, pillaging, raping countries and continents, big evil. Somewhere in between there, 14% of the population. 1% of that 14% thinks they own the entire planet. And they happen to own every government official, most of them. They own all the television corporations and the news stations and everything else, for that matter, and most of the apps. They buy them from people. Once you get big enough, they offer you $1 billion to $100 billion for your corporation. You give it to them and you're rich forever, and then they have control of it. That's what they do, because they want power, money, fame, and control over everybody at all times. So those people who I call the controllers are evil people, and they only believe that this is all there is. Okay? Why did Trump fake the shot on the ear? He didn't. That didn't happen that way. You just think it did because you believe in conspiracy theories, because unfortunately for you, your programming keeps your mind simple. This is why I'm telling you in my book and on this show today that if you eat the right vitamins and you do the right things and take care of yourself, you're not going to believe all the stuff that's being told by people online that are lies, right? Lies. The universe doesn't see good or evil. The universe is all. It front judges expression to see. Not sure what that last sentence meant. The universe itself is not evil or good. Evil and good only exists in the third dimension. Well, the first and second, but not by the first and second dimensional beings. Okay? The universe itself is not good or evil. People in it are good or evil. But the universe can't be fooled. I can't pretend that I'm good when I'm evil. So maybe I should have explained that a little differently, Paula. It doesn't just other experiences of self, but expressions of self. But that what you said, I'm not sure. You're kind of talking in a little bit of a riddle there. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. I don't think you're disagreeing with me, but I think you maybe trying to clarify. And what is Jess saying? The fallen angels. There are no such thing as fallen angels. The fallen angel is you, and you only fell because you think you did, because you're down here in third dimension. So there is no war that was happening in the heavens, like Paula was saying. It might be possible that I'm not reading it properly.
It doesn't just other expressions of self, but that's what you said.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm not quite sure what that means. It doesn't just other. What is it? Are you talking about the universe itself? It doesn't just other.
It doesn't just other expressions of self.
Yeah, even my wife is reading what you typed in the thing. It doesn't just other expressions of self, but that's what you said. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. I apologize, Paula. I'm not trying to be rude. I've been channeling now for 3 hours, so I sometimes have a little bit of a hard time reading what people are saying and getting it right. Source expressions itself in all forms. It doesn't judge itself or others. No, we judge ourselves. What I'm saying is you can't hide from the universe, because the universe is not good nor evil. The universe really is good and evil, but not in the respect of what we have down here. That's my point. That's what my point was. My point was that everybody tries to pull things down to third dimension and see them in third dimensional terms. So you can't fool the universe. The universe isn't going to give you a package and knowledge of your ascension on the in service to self side in third dimension when you're self-serving, because you're not going to care about anyone else. So because of that, you're not going to expand that part of your consciousness, is what I was talking about. Consciousness is key. Aaron is here. Or are you A.A. Ron, right? Are you American? Are you A.A. Ron or are you Aaron? Sorry, I thought that was funny. Why are we deemed crazy people when we ascend in the consciousness? We're not actually deemed crazy. That would be like you're saying that if we were ascending in consciousness, that somebody else was seeing us and calling us crazy. That's not a thing that happens either. Judgment and craziness and stuff is only down here with people down here, right? Isn't it all different ways of teaching different things? It's all teaching us God is with us. Yet, yeah, within us. Yet, well, that's my point earlier. As a theologian, I'm not arguing all the time over who wrote what when, because you're just chasing your tail when you do that. All of the religions that are out there came from a spiritual practice that was a way to get out of here, and then it was controlled by people in another time.
You guys have to be patient. Channeling in the 11th dimension in a 3D world is tough enough. He's been streaming now for a few hours. So when your sugar levels get low, unfortunately, it can skew the reality between worlds. So please be patient with him. Just be a little bit more thorough with your talk, like your words. If you don't understand it, yeah, just repeat it in a different way. Might be easier for him to read. Thank you.
Sorry, guys. Okay, so that's why it's usually when somebody's doing this, they're sitting in front of people in an audience and the questions are written down and they answer those questions, or somebody gets up and asks the question and I have an interaction, right? But because I'm doing this online and I've been on here for 3 hours, it burns up the blood sugar and sometimes I misunderstand what your questions were asking. Are we in a simulation? Only in a simulation of the mind. It's not a computer program like the movie The Matrix said. It's a simulation that is in the mind or for the mind, because none of this is happening to you. All of it's happening for you. You're not in the universe. The universe is in you. We are not in the universe. The universe is in us. So all of this is happening in our minds. We think this is happening, but it's actually not. We're pretending and coming down here because we come from a very high plane of existence, and there we're immortal and we don't need food and we don't need water and we don't have disease and we don't have strife. So we've created this place to come down here. But when we came down here, when we first created it, we knew who we were up there. And so we weren't really learning anything because we remembered who we were. So we had to be veiled so that we don't remember who we are. So we come down here and we're veiled now and we're having an organic experience, but we're supposed to at some point remember who we are and start moving back towards the creation or the creator.
Sugar.
And what is it? Oh, more sugar. Sorry. Mentos I'm getting from my wife because I need to keep my sugar level up so I can keep answering your questions.
He needs real sugar. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. I've been on here for 3 hours. Normally,
like a diabetic whose sugar's low. Yeah?
If you guys were paying for me to do this, I would do an hour or maybe 2 maximum, and then out because the blood sugar level goes down. Daryl, Anka, all those guys do that. I go longer and I actually give better information than they do because I'm not giving you information I learned off the internet.
Or from a fake alien.
Or from a fake alien.
Sorry.
Right, preference is yes, but no good or bad as far as the universe. No, the universe itself is not good or bad, nor is it male or female. The universe is a dual aspect oneness that is all true love. There is no hate. There is none of those negatives. Those negatives only exist down in third dimension, and they get lessened in fourth and lessened in fifth. And by the sixth dimension, the ego's gone. The evil is gone. Nothing can move past that. So you're right. You're right, Paula. Is that Paula that said that?
No.
Who was it that said that?
No, I was talking to Orion.
That was Paula, I think, that said that. So Paula, you're absolutely right. Right? To call others evil is an illusion of separation. That's my point. That's my point. In this place, down here, it's exactly my point. In this place, down here in third dimension, you think this is happening, so therefore you think that there is a separation. Separation only happens in time, right? Time doesn't exist. It only exists in this place in your mind. So you and I are saying the same thing. Is space not real? Earth's flat and enclosed? No, no, Alicia. Space is real. Earth is not flat and enclosed. That story of the flat earth comes from the ancient story of telling children that Tiamat, who was being referred to as the primordial ooze then, or any other character like in the Japanese sagas and in the Viking sagas, of a big giant who was the creation of the world. And now you're talking to people trying to tell them what's going on in the universe in a third dimensional construct. So you say giant, and then the giant was unalive, but the giant's not really unalive. The giant's just sleeping because the earth has volcanic activity. And you're living in the skull of this giant. So you're living in the dome of the sky. The dome of the sky is the skull of the giant that you're living in. And that giant is not unalived. It's just sleeping. And that's where that story of flat earth came from. That's the truth of where that story of flat earth came from. It doesn't exist that way at all. We live in a womb. In some sense, rising spirit,
But not under a firmament.
But not under a firmament. Agreed. In some sense, we do. If you look at science, is starting to catch up to it, and they hate it. If you look at, as above, so below, as without, so within. If you look at their Big Bang theory, what is the Big Bang theory? Look at spermiation. They actually filmed that. You can go and Google that. Go to YouTube and Google the images of that. When a sperm gets to a cell and weaves its way through it, it penetrates the cell and the tail pops off and it goes in. When that happens, there's nothing. There's Tiamat, the primordial ooze, and there's nothing. And then there's the spermiation, and when that happens, boom, there's actually an explosion of light, and all life comes out of that explosion. So in the ancient times, were they trying to describe that? Because then if you look at the separation of that, what is it called with the cell division? As it starts to divide, that becomes the flower of life, the exact way that the flower of life gets here. So in the ancient times, they're telling you that the universe was created on these building blocks, and they're showing you these building blocks. And the building blocks actually coincide with cell division after spermiation, and the Big Bang theory coincides with spermiation. So how did these people from 12,000 years ago know this information? Because what they were talking about similarly is what science is saying started the whole thing. So did they know far more than we thought they knew? Or science borrow? Because if that was a religion, and science came up with the Big Bang theory, as a theologian, I would say the scientists borrowed their religious story of creation from the religions who have the Big Bang theory, let there be light. Because that's what it says. So if that's not a religion, that's how they get away with saying that. But they respond to it and act like they're priests in a religion. So that religion of Big Bang theory is the same religion as the creation story in different Bibles that said, God said, let there be light. First there was nothing, and then there was light, and then there was everything. So look at Paula. She's like, yes, oh my God, right? True story. So science is proving God. There's my standing up as my four religious titles from four different religions, and my theoretical or my thesis that I should be writing right now. There's my thesis on the creation of the universe. Let's do religion versus religion here. Science versus just use the Hebrew one and put them together. And I think they copied that from the Hebrew creation. I'm telling you, man. Yeah, tell a little truth with many lies. Absolutely. And it is a religion. Am I right, Paula? It is a religion. They act just like it's a religion. They get real mad when you talk about their stuff, right? So I'm just saying, that's like atheism, right? There's a comedian who talks about that. I don't know his name. He's real tall. And he talks about that where people say he's an atheist, and when I die, I go back to nothing. And he's like, hold on a second. So what you're saying is you merge back with your creator, right? I mean, he's funny. And so he's going, so he compares atheism and Christianity, and he's like, so you say there is nothing, and you can't prove it, you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, and then the creation of a God, you can't prove it, you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. I say God, you say nothingness, and then when you die, what happens? And the guy says, nothing happens, and I go back to my to nothing. And he's like, wait, so you merge with your creator? I loved that. That was great. Right. So, what is manic behavior? Is that real? Yeah, it has to do with all of that has to do with what I talked about 3 hours ago when I started. It has to do with what's going on in your brain because of your nutrition. Okay. If you don't have the right nutrients in your brain, this goes back to your body as the temple. If you don't have the right nutrition in your body can't survive properly. If you look into this, there's a guy, his name is Michael Nehls, and it's Nehls. He's a German doctor. He just wrote a book, and he was on Tucker Carlson interviewed him 3 days ago. Okay. 3 or 4 days ago, Tucker Carlson interviewed him. He's a scientist who wrote a book. They tried to cancel him between 2020 and 2024. He's a doctor, has a PhD, and he wrote a book that just came out this year. You should take a look at the book. He talks about the neurogenesis of our brain and how they've discovered that your hippocampus in your brain on normal, especially if you live in the United States, but normal for humans on this planet, shrinks by 24% from the time you were born until the time that you pass away. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily have to happen. If it wouldn't happen if you had the right nutrients that you were putting into your body that were feeding your brain. And then if you were actually feeding your brain by, learning things and, making your brain work. Okay, treating your body like a temple. There are certain things that you need to have in your body. We talked about this early on. So once the podcast is over, you should look for it. It'll be up either today or tomorrow on the MP3 version, or on YouTube under my name, or on Facebook under my name. And go back to the beginning and listen to what I was talking about. So the right vitamins and minerals that you consume will expand your consciousness and keep your brain from shrinking. And actually, your brain will actually get a little bit larger. You have room in here. Your head gets bigger. You have a little bit of room. Your IQ goes up. Your consciousness goes up. It doesn't stay in the place where you're at. And you actually get smarter. And when you do that, your veiling gets unpierced and you start not being fooled by their lies. Okay. So schizophrenia is, most of the time, the schizophrenia is people believing that the ego, the conscience, and the thinking mind are three different personalities, and they give them names. Your ego will grab one of those. Your ego wants you to listen to it. Some of the stuff, and here's the part that I lose people and they get really mad at me, some of the stuff where you're hearing different voices in your head, you've been stuck here on this earth for a very long time, and you're getting what's called a squelch. If you know anything about broadcasting, like a citizen band radio or broadcasting and television in different hertz and radios in different hertz, if you get too close to one, you're at a certain frequency. If you get too close to another frequency, they start to bleed over into one another. Okay, some of the stuff that's schizophrenia is in fact just you from a different life that you're unaware of. And you're actually able to actually communicate with that person, and you think you're cuckoo, and you think that person is real, and you're manifesting that person in front of you because you remember when you were that person in a different life. So some of you, I might get you mad at me now, and you won't believe me, but I've taught people that through meditation. I've done this. I've been teaching this for 30 years. I just haven't written a book about it and don't have a PhD on it. But if you, through meditation, raise your vibration to that place of meditation where the thinking mind and the ego is not as apparent and they're quieter, that's quieting the mind. If you do that, you can then quiet those voices that are in your head and control them. and I've worked with people in meditation, teaching them meditation techniques and breathing techniques, and literally without medication, that schizophrenia stops. Okay, not 100% of the time, but some of those people are really lost and they don't want it to stop. It's just like when people say, "I'm possessed by a demon." You can't be possessed by a demon unless you want to be, and most of the time, you're not really possessed by a demon. It's just your ego taking on the persona of that demon, playing that character for you. If Paula's still here, she'd probably agree with me, right? So you have nothing then, right? I'm not sure what that is saying. You're saying excuses, right? Yeah. See, Paula's like, "Yep, I do." So it's you, because it doesn't really exist. This entire universe doesn't exist. You don't exist in the universe. It exists in you only. So these things are all in your head. You just have to learn how to control that and get around that. So it's not excuses, if that's what you're talking about, Barbarian.
Excuses for schizophrenia.
Yeah, if it's it's not.
Science can't prove it. Even when they have if they give them acid trips and things that make you more high in your enlightenment, it calms them down.
Yeah. So yes, bipolar is the same. Here's an example. Like, I don't know if you can hear a book in the background. Raising your vibration. They can give you medication that raises your vibration and quiets that. Here's an example. That guy, Michael Nels, that I was telling you about, the German doctor who just wrote a book about this, you can look him up. He actually said that looking at the human body and giving it the right nutrients changes the brain composition and makes your brain stronger, less likely to have these emotional problems that we have in these mental issues. He was looking at people who had bipolar disorder and other disorders that they were giving lithium to, and he started studying back in the like early 2000s, and he started talking about it in 2020, and now he just wrote another book. We talked about it in 2020 on one book, and he just wrote another book. I don't know how many books he's written, but you can look him up. He just did a video like 2 days ago on Tucker Carlson. I just watched it today, and I'm probably going to be looking up his book, if not buying it, or at least listening to him speak more. So he was looking into lithium, and when they gave lithium to patients who have these issues, it would lower the issues, but the problem was they were giving them far too much lithium, and eventually the lithium would end up unaliving you if you kept taking the doses. It made it worse. So he started looking into lowering the amount of lithium from this 3,000 milligrams a day pills that they're giving people down to 4 milligrams a day, working with patients that have Alzheimer's and dementia, giving them 4 milligrams of this specific lithium each day stops the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. It also stops bipolar symptoms. Okay, but they give you this huge amount of this drug, and it just messes you up even worse, makes you a zombie, or eventually starts like doing more damage. Lowering the dose, controlling the dose, makes all that stuff go away. So most of the problems are not a disorder. They're literally your body not having the right nutrients in the right amounts that are causing more of these problems. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm just quoting to you what a doctor said on an interview and wrote a book about. Okay, so you can take a look at that. And right now, they tried to cancel him because he was telling you things between 2020 and 2024 that have to do with that hydroxy thing. He was telling you about vitamin C and vitamin D and vitamin B13 and which is lithium, the right type of lithium, and different things, magnesium, that if you take these in the right quantities, it expands your consciousness and actually expands your brain. And it has nothing to do with chemicals or drugs. It's just foods that we eat that we're not eating like we used to eat, and taking in the right kinds of minerals that we used to be taking in when our population was less, and now we're not doing it, and they're taking it out of our foods and not recommending it, and lowering that, like cholesterols, good cholesterols, and things like that, taking the sodium out of things or the lithium out of things and giving us a different lithium, like a lithium, lithium phosphate instead of the right one, or a lithium sulfate instead of the right one. And this changes the chemical composition. This is his findings. So you might want to take a look at that, right? The specific lithium is, hold on, I'll have to look it up again.
Lithium orotate.
Yeah, it's lithium orotate. Can you type it for me? Yeah. Brooke's going to put it in the thing. My wife's going to put it in the chat for you guys. He says between 1 milligram and 4 milligrams a day of this in your diet, as long as you're also taking in magnesium and vitamin C, vitamin D3 from the sun or pills, and taking something else. You'll have to watch the video or read his book. That lithium, you can get it in a pill form, and if you're taking that, he claims, now I'm not a PhD, I'm not a doctor, I'm just going by what a doctor has said on an interview and in his book, that will change, and your hippocampus will actually start expanding the way it's supposed to, and you'll actually have better cognitive abilities. And instead of them putting you to sleep the way they are now, get fluoride out of your diet, no fluoride in your water, or no aluminum in your deodorant, or fluoride in your deodorant or stuff. Get that out of your diet and start eating properly with the right fish oils, right? And getting the right cholesterols and getting magnesium and getting vitamin C and vitamin D. He says this is going to expand your brain and put your brain back on track. And, he said that the average human currently, their hippocampus in their brain shrinks 24% from birth to the time that they pass away. 24%. Just the hippocampus alone is shrinking. Okay, this is causing your cognitive abilities to become less and you become demented. The smaller your hippocampus, the higher your chances. These are his words, not mine. The higher your chances for dementia or Alzheimer's. And if your hippocampus gets to a certain level of small, diminished, you will pass away from dementia or Alzheimer's. That's what he says. Now, I'm not the PhD, so don't start hating on me, guys. I'm just quoting a doctor who said this in a book, and I just watched a video of his. Okay, what's the name of the book? I don't remember the name of the book, but it was Tucker Carlson, and it was the Dr. Michael Nehls, Nehls, who was on there like 3 or 4 days ago on Tucker Carlson. So if you look up, go to YouTube. This is where I found it. I went to YouTube, typed in Tucker Carlson. He has two different things, one with his name and one with TCN because the Tucker Carlson Network. I went to his video, but you could look up Tucker Carlson and then look up, that guy's name, Michael Nehls, I think it is, Nehls. And then it'll come up. There's a video that was an interview that was about an hour and a half or something like that. Watch that. He shows you the book, tells you the name of the book in there. I looked it up, but I didn't take a picture of it, so I don't remember the name of the book, and I apologize for that. Okay. Michael, right? You know how to spell Michael. Michael, and his last name is Nehls, Nehh, if you're European or Australia, Nehls. And he is a doctor, PhD, and he wrote some books. I went to Amazon and typed in his name, and his book came up, right? Yeah, absolutely believe it. Yeah, me too, because I already know I was listed as a chemist in the United States for 10 years. So when it comes to that, and my wife is studying to be she's going to get her like a botanist, and she's like a chemist back here. She just doesn't have the degree. Trust me, she knows what she's talking about when it comes to plants more than I do, chemistry wise. And her and I are we're a couple hippies. I don't have any hair on my head right now, but when I was younger, I would have long hair down to here, right? We take 20 or 30 pills a day of different nutrients that we take. And then we also make sure we eat properly and eat good foods, right? So we try to balance all of these things that we're supposed to have. Well, I also make Ormus. We make Ormus, and we take that as well. You guys should look into that. That's expensive unless you know how to make it. But I take Ormus. A couple of friends of mine make it, and it's really good as well. That also helps you to illuminate yourself, to raise your vibration. Meditate. Do the right things. Look at my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. Look in there. Learn about the Christ oil. Learn about your nutrition, right? We're life coaches. Brooke and I are both life coaches, spiritual life coaches, Reiki masters. We teach Defense Against the Dark Arts to teach you how to defend yourself against all this so you can have some time off and relief from all the negativity. We also are Reiki masters. So we teach Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3. We also teach, I don't have the map up, but we also teach like every kind of psychic ability that you want. We teach that as well. I just don't know where I have the thing here. What is this? No, that's the one that's already up. So I don't have it, but we teach all the clairs. We teach every psychic ability. all you have to do is email us right here at merlinandmaeve@gmail.com. Tell us that you're interested in it. Make sure you put your handle from TikTok in there so we know who we're talking to, right? But you can find that stuff. How do you spell Ormus? It's actually spelled Ormes, O-R-M-E-S, Ormes. It means orbitally rearranged monoatomic, so it's actually an A, even though it's an E. It's monoatomic elements, okay? So the M is monoatomic, right? So it's actually orbitally arranged autoatomic element. When you look it up, if you look up Ormus like you did, take that I out and put a U in there, you'll find it online, Ormus. Somehow it's evolving away from the actual spelling of it. It's actually Ormes with an E, so it's MES is what it's been known. I make Cleopatra's milk, so I use the ancient Egyptian way of making it. Most people don't want to do it because it takes a long time. Most people want to do it in a day, so they do it. But some people make some really good Ormus. A buddy of mine, Dave, makes Ormus that they make his. He can make a batch in a couple of days and sell it to you, and his is really actually pretty good for considering he makes it differently. The way I do it, it doesn't have any harsh chemicals that I use, to get the same reaction. But I use the ancient Egyptian method, so I like mine better, right? So people pronounce it Ormus like the U, but if you type in the Ormes with the E, that's what you're going to get more of it. But you could also even put in Ormus with a U there. But it's actually called, or what it is orbitally rearranged, ORM, monoatomic element, Orme. And then
don't try to make it themselves without learning properly.
Yeah, and don't try to make it yourselves without learning properly, because you can unalive yourself if you make it wrong. Or you can make yourself sick. Yeah, you could burn yourself. You could do damage, because most of the people out there are going to have you try and use some really harsh chemicals that if you inhale the fumes from it, it can harm you. You could die. Right, so be careful with that. Found some info. You make it and sell it. Now, we don't sell it yet. We're looking at doing that, but we're in Australia and we have different rules over here. If I was in America, I could probably sell it already. I just have to get insurance. But over here, you have to have a few other things in tow before you can do that. So we will be. But there's a guy over here that I can get you in touch with, a friend of ours named Dave. He does sell it. He's already got all the checks and balances, and he actually sells it. I don't know if he'll mail it overseas, but if you're in Australia, yeah, he'll mail it to you. Dave's got good Ormus. I like his Ormus. So, but if you're somewhere in the United States, I have friends over there too. You just got to get a hold of them. It's online. It's expensive though. It's like $40 for an ounce of that stuff. It's very expensive. 40 American dollars an ounce. Bring it here and we'll give you could you have isn't his thing in there? The bottle was in the cupboard, baby, and all the way in the back of the cupboard with the other empty bottles. His bottle's in there. Oh, unless you threw it out. Okay. So she knows the name. If we can't show you Dave's stuff, that's here in Australia, New South Wales, Australia. He could post it. What is it? Yeah, we have his honey, so it's the same company, right? Yeah, bring that in. He also has honey it's got really good honey. We buy his honey too. He's a buddy of ours, and he makes good stuff. Yes, she is. Thank you, Jess. Jess says, your wife is absolutely amazing. You're truly blessed with her. I am in love with this woman, and I am truly blessed. She is so beautiful and such a great person, and her energy is rocking.
I know, we're still in love after 10 million years.
Yeah, right? 10 million years, yeah. So, yeah, right? See, they're putting gold in the gold tinctures. They're doing that. I tell people be careful with that, but they're using that with the Ormus now, and they're doing that. A buddy of mine that's in America said that it was giving him all kinds of energy. He was doing the tabs that he would put on his tongue with Ormus and the gold in the bio nanoparticles. I haven't done it, but I hear it's really good. Yeah, Dave has really good honey. If you're in New South Wales, you should get Dave's honey. He's got a beef farms and stuff. She's trying to find it. We did have I got a bottle of Ormus from him. We were trading stuff, right? And so he gave us the Ormus and we gave him some of our goods, because we also make jewelry and necklaces and earrings and rings and anklets and stuff like that. Her and I make a lot of stuff. And we sell things, but we haven't started selling the Ormus yet, or the colloidal silver, because I also make colloidal silver. but we haven't started making that to sell. In America, those would both be $40 an ounce for 1 ounce of colloidal silver, good stuff, not the fake stuff. And then same thing with the Ormus, whether I'm sending it to you dried or liquid, would be, North Carolina. There's people there you can look up. I have some friends in Arizona, some friends in Colorado that are selling stuff. So you might want to look around North Carolina. My buddy who's in, I think he's in South Carolina, Natives. They're on there. He's actually online. He was online here on TikTok when I went live. I saw he was live on his on either on his podcast or talking on someone else's podcast. You should look him up as well. They're out there. You can look the stuff up in America. There's a lot of people in America selling it. I'm gonna take a bite of my cookie again. I apologize if I offend anyone here. So remember this about gold though. Gold collects energy, right? Silver can return energy, but gold collects it. So be careful of using anything that's gold.
Yeah, explain that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So be careful about that, guys. That's why when you look at people who wear gold, you're going to find that people who wear gold more often than not are going to be self-serving.
Yeah.
People who wear it because of what it is. It's a reflection of them and their energy and their personality. And silver, right? Brooke wants to say something.
Gold is shiny and it's attractive to people. Yes. Unfortunately, it's like, think of gold as an energy vampire. It will take energy from you, but it won't give. Silver actually can take but gives. And he'll tell you the story of, why silver is important and better for you than what gold actually is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can even look this up in people, miners looking for gold. Silver encompasses gold in the world, underground, because silver keeps gold from pulling all the energy into itself. Silver repels it. Positive, negative, masculine, feminine. Okay. You look up in miners, they would say you mine until you find a silver vein, follow the silver vein, and the silver vein takes you to gold. Okay. Because gold can't exist without silver. They're opposites. In nature, gold is outwardly, it's shiny, like she was saying, and beautiful, but it draws all the energy in for its luster. Silver is a little more dank, right? But silver is lighter because you can give it energy and give it an intention, and it will return that energy to you. Like she was saying, gold is an energy vampire. So people who are energy vampires, they love gold because it's a solid, state aspect of themselves. It's a reflection of them. People who are in service to others generally gravitate towards the silver. Why? Because the silver is like them. So your personality, you kind of draw to you. But that doesn't mean that everybody who wears gold is self-serving, but you're going to find that the majority of them, if they got gold in their teeth and a bunch of gold chains, you're going to find that they're centered around themselves, right? So it's not like the other elements like copper, brass, or quartz. No. So gold is the anomaly. Like diamonds are kind of the same way. Diamonds are greedy. Right? Diamonds are people who love diamonds and look at diamonds and they're precious, my precious. Remember that ring? It was gold, by the way. My precious, it was gold. So people who are self-serving, they see the reflection of themselves in that gold. And that's why they showed you in the movies and in the books of Lord of the Rings and all of those books, they were seeing their reflection in the gold. Whenever they had the ring sitting there and they were showing the ring, you were seeing the reflection of the people. And everybody who was in the presence of the ring started becoming dark. The ring was controlling them, the one ring to control them all. It's greed. The one ring is the greed, self-servingness. The whole purpose of those movies and those books by Tolkien they were all allegories to be teaching you the same thing. Evil is as evil does. Stupid is as stupid does, right? So that was the whole thing that they were doing, right? They put their worth into the gold or a lot of excessive jewelry. Agreed. So they show evil people or self-serving people they're rich, self-serving. They wear stuff that's gaudy, expensive. Why? Because rich people want to show off their wealth. Because they're self-serving. They want you to know their station. It's very important to them. Their status is very important, right? So you have to look at that, right? The White House is plastered in gold now. All places, yeah, right? All places are, they do that. Look at, what's his name? Nelson Mandela. That was South Africa. What's his name down in Central America in the 1990s? The drug lord that America went down there to get him. I can't think of his name right now. He had a gold toilet. That was my point of this. I can't think of his name. I'm going to eat my cookie right here. So I can't think of what his name was, but they went to get him, Noriega. They went to go and get him, and he had a toilet made of gold. These people need to have this stuff to show you how important they are, how gaudy they are, gaudy rings and jewelry. And if they don't have that, they have cars, they have something that they're as a reflection of themselves to show you how important they are, right? Just said, can it also be the opposite when your heart centers in reflecting Christ's love within you? Well, that would be the silver aspect, even though the heart chakra is green. Putting your love into that so that you can give that love back, that would be a representation of silver in the respect between good silver and gold. Special cases, or they just like it. Most people are drawn to who they are and drawn to what they are. You are what you eat, right? So if you're self-serving, you're going to want power, you're going to want fame, you're going to want glory, you're going to want a big house, you're going to want a big car, you're going to want a big bank account. You're not just drawn to that. You're drawn to it because that's who you are. You might want to try and hide and pretend I'm not evil, but I drive a Ford, whatever, a Bigfoot, and I have a 27-room mansion. You're self-serving. That's evil, whether you like it or not. That's just what it is. Copper is another mineral that is great for you. Copper draws out impurities. You can have people put copper on and they turn green and stuff like that from it, and then over time that stops happening. Copper draws the impurities out, and weirdly, copper leaches out materials out of copper, and that's what makes different elements like the turquoise. Turquoise is made from copper, leaching some of the copper elements out of the copper with water into other rocks, and that's where you get that crystal from. Those things go into that, and the color of that is determined by the properties that were leached out of the copper. So copper pulls out impurities, and so when you wear it, it will pull impurities out of your body. Copper's great. Copper's not self-serving.
If they like gold and want something that's actually beneficial for you, pyrite. They call it fool's gold, but pyrite and citrine manifest abundance.
Right.
Pyrite is a beautiful.
Well, Paula, the better term, Paula says, I see it as unhealed, not evil. The more proper term that you should use there, and I like your thinking though, and I like where you're going, is the unawake. Because they're not damaged. They're just further away from the light because they don't believe that there is anything besides this place. So you're right in your thinking, and I like the way you're going, but they're not actually damaged, but they are damaging themselves, right? Ooh. And what did God say? God said, let there be light. What is this?
Pyrite.
Oh yeah, here's some pyrite. Right? Is this the one? This was the one that I was wearing when we were dressed up as a pirate last year, and I wore this in a pouch around my neck because we were very piratey. We were actually going to a party where it was a trivial game for her job, and we had all kinds of costumes, and we did costumes. All of us did.
Mix pyrite with some beautiful pure citrine. Put them together with a little bit of love and intention. You'll learn that, and you can manifest things like. Yeah,
I like unaware too, Paula, because they're closed off, very, very closed of their third eye, and so because of that, they have amnesia and they don't remember. So they're unaware of what's happening because they're unaware of the self or the next level of the self. I like that one too. I like that word. I think I like that word better. I think I like unaware because they're unaware of the next level, the next awakening. You have, when you become self-aware, that's why I like what you said. When you become self-aware, I think, therefore I am. The next level of consciousness upgrade is the awareness that I am not this physical plane or this physical body, that I am, in fact, something else. And what is that? That's what you have to discover. So I like that. Unaware is more accurate. I agree. I agree with that. I like it. Unaware. I've heard other people say that unawares. Right. So I agree with that because, but they are self-serving, unfortunately, because they're living in 3D, and 3D is what they were trying to tell you was the beast that they were talking about before, that everybody thought is the mark of the devil. You know, let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, and then they change a word in there. You know, and it used to say, let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. Okay, and it's 666, 6 3 score and 6. That's because carbon 12. We're a carbon-based unit. And what is that? What compiles? What elements make up the carbon-based unit? 6 neutrons, 6 protons, 6 electrons, 666. Okay, so the number of the beast is the physical plane. We are the beast in physical plane. This is our prison until we realize that we are not the beast. So when you're living in it and you're living in the tree of life or eating of the tree of life, you are and you have become the beast. You are what this place is. So you think it's real when it's not. Instead of realizing I am the universe is not in me, or I am not in the universe is in me, you think I am in the universe. So you think this reality is happening, but I tell people none of this is happening. It just thinks it is. Yeah, put copper in your saltwater pool. Yeah, now that has good elements, right? Thank you for that. Thank you, Sarah, for that. So literally, sorry for me chewing on stuff. We're going on, 3 hours, 45 minutes. I got to keep some blood sugar in here to keep talking to you from this level that I'm talking to you from, to give you this information. I'm curious, having a human experience. Yeah, yes, you are a consciousness, right? A conscious being having a human experience. And the only way that you can truly have an organic experience is to have an organic experience. You can't have a real experience without it being organic, because then you're just pretending and you're pretending, right? So when people are acting for a movie, they know they're not the character they're playing. When you know you're not the character you're playing, you can still play that character and convince other people that you're that character, but you're not really learning as much or experiencing being that. That's why we shouldn't be saying that we're the human being, because truly we're in the place of doing. So we should be human doing. We are being what we're doing. So that's where they get that being from, the human being. And everyone says, what human? Well, Hugh, people don't realize what that word means when you break it down. The etymology of it should break down the etymology of human, right? Human being. Hue means energy. It means light. It means as God. Hue being energy to man, or energy and man being one. So there's your Trinity again in the very vernacular we use, right? People don't realize that. You just have to look at that. Is the book the revelations from two aspects? What is that? Ourselves and what is that word literally? The revelations, are you talking about revelations in the Bible? If you look at the revelations in the Bible as an allegory, like the allegory of the cave, the letters to the churches in that revelation are how to balance the chakras. You just don't realize that because the words don't sound like they're saying that, because it sounds like that the letters that came out of Patmos were yelling at the churches because they weren't doing things right and God was angry. And it was actually in code, so that when they handed it to the jailers and said, please give this to the disciples over there, that the jailers would read it and go, oh, he's kicking their butt because their churches aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And it was written in code. So when you translate that, my buddy McGalvery, what's his first name? I can't think of his first name right now. I can see his face. Rodney. Rodney would kill me if he realized I forgot his name. Rodney McGalvery, I can look him up. He just published a book where he talks about that too, that the letters to the churches are balancing the chakras. I talked about that in my book. The letters to the churches, I talk about it on my podcast for like 5 years. The letters to the churches are balancing the chakras and how to balance the chakras. You just have to realize that the revelation, the word revelation doesn't mean the end times. Revelation means enlightenment. You need to realize that too. So people think the book of Revelation means the end of the world. It doesn't. It means the illumination. And what happens if you stay living in the flesh. That's all that means. Yeah. People don't realize that. Look up the etymology. That means the, wording, right? Etymology is actually the word that they use in some languages for language. So look up where that word's come from. Revelation means to revel, means to illuminate. So the revelation is illumination. So revelation in the Bible is knowledge. It's knowledge that you're supposed to be illuminating to and expanding your consciousness by the letters to the churches, by the balancing of your chakras and living properly and learning the Christ oil and the Christ within you, which doesn't have anything to do with Jesus other than Jesus was the representation of that on earth as an example for us to tell the same story in that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament, in that religion, that became that. But Christed, the Christos comes from the Greek ideology of that or knowledge of that. But every religion, so-called religion in the world knew about that. Do you agree that the universe or source is all and that different beings is source expression in itself? Yes. I do agree with that. The universe is everything, is one. None of this is actually, let's go real big, Paula. None of this is actually happening. I don't exist. You don't exist. This is all just in the mind of the creator, which is in a womb. Didn't you say that earlier, that we're in a womb? So we're in a womb with a view, right? No, truly. From this perspective of where we are, I don't know if I still have it here. I can show you a radial image. Let me see if I still have it. Radial image of, I might have gotten rid of it here, of a brain cell. Where is it here? Is this it? No, what is this? There you go. Here's a radial image of one single brain cell and a radial image of the universe. They're almost identical, except for the universe has more ganglia. The universe has more glia cells than we do. So that would suggest science is scared because this would suggest that our brain cell, as above, so below, as without, so within, or as within, so without, as below, so above. Our brain cell is exactly that of the universe. So from the perspective of science, they don't want to know this and they don't want to talk about it. It would be suggestive of we in this universe are inside one single brain cell in the mind of something. Ponder that for a minute. Simulation, but not how you think. The word simulation that we use here, King, being like a computer simulation, doesn't do it justice because that's putting it into a third dimensional construct, saying there are third dimensional beings that have us in a pod with goo and something stuck in our head, and this is a computer program that we're seeing in our head. It's only like that in the illusion stage of that beingness. Physicality is not real. Physical plane is not real. You just think it is. Right? Look at Paula, right? Right? So from that perspective of simulation, it is a simulation, but it's not a simulation by third dimensional aliens or robots. It's a simulation that's happening in the mind of the creator, the mind of the universe, beyond the universe, that which is the whatever you want to call it, multiverse, the consciousness, the collective consciousness of everything that is and everything that will be. Right? So now I'm being produced. My wife is telling me it's time that I need to end the show here. We're looking at the 4-hour mark, so I should probably get off of here. I'll be back live. I'm going to try and go live once a week again. We just had a lot of stuff going on in the last month, so I only got to go live once this month, right? Or go live once this month, right? My mind is not allowing me to understand. Yeah, that's okay, right? I have major blockages. That's just the blockages that you have. You just have to get past and unlock. If you go back once this is done, if you go to one of my channels, Facebook or YouTube, or anywhere you listen to MP3 by later on today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, I'll have this whole thing up on podcast wherever you listen to an MP3 podcast. Go back and listen to the beginning of this episode, and you'll hear me talk about feeding your brain and eating ascension foods feeding your body properly and feeding your brain properly. That will expand your consciousness. And the Christ oil is very important, right? Thank you very much for that. Who gave me that? Jess gave me that. Thank you for that. But go back and listen to the beginning of this podcast, and you'll hear the me talk about that, feeding your soul. Right? You get to feed your body as if it's a temple, and feed your brain, and that will that with the Christ oil and taking care of that oil within your body and taking care of your brain will expand your consciousness. Your brain will actually expand. Your consciousness will expand. You will move up in IQ. Your IQ gets higher because you move up in vibration to a higher plane of existence. And that will expand your consciousness and start opening that third eye. And then you'll have these epiphanies. You'll have these what we call downloads. Some people call them memory bubbles, but you'll have more access to what's really going on in the universe and your higher self. And then will expand your consciousness out of this third dimensionality to the realization of that what we're talking about here. And you'll do that, right? Where can you listen to me? If you go, let me put it up on the screen again. Let me show you my where is it here? I have what's this? Nope, that's the one I was looking for before and couldn't find it. Right? What is this? Nope, that was the one I was just showing a second ago. Hold on a second. I keep looking for it and I can't find it. I closed it and I don't know what I did with it. Maybe I'm going past it. I'm trying to find the picture of my here it is. Here, if you're looking for my my podcast, you can find me on all platforms. I'm on every place where you listen to an MP3 platform podcast. You can go on Facebook and look up Orion Rising. I'm Orion Rising, the page there will have the podcast or my name, Leonard O'Neill, on there. But if you're listening on a podcast, MP3, anywhere in the world you're listening to a podcast, look up Orion Rising by me. That's the symbol for my podcast. It's free. There's almost 600 episodes to listen to of me talking about this material. And you can listen to it anytime you want for free all over the world. And you just said, tell your wife thank you too. That's right, my wife. I love her very much.
You're welcome.
She said, you're welcome. Yeah. So yeah, there she is, waving at you in the background. I think she has dinner ready for us or a snack or something going on. Yeah. She's got something going on for us because it's 4:00 in the PM over here in New South Wales, Australia. But anywhere you listen to an MP3 broadcast, look up Orion Rising by Leonard O'Neill. And I'm on there and all my shows are on there. And if they're not, then you can go to www.orionrising.podbean.com. I pay those people to have my podcast up. You can listen to them there. And you can even, I think, get the RSS number there and put it on your favorite place. But I am on Apple Podcast. I am on Google Podcast. I am on so many podcasts places on apps that some of them I don't even know how I got there. They're all over the world. And so I'm listening to in every country. I think it's 160 countries today. So that's almost every country on the planet. Somebody's listening to my podcast there, so you can listen to them. And you can spend, many hours. Most of them are 2 to 3 hours long. Just like here, I'm almost 4 hours into this one by the time we get off here. All right, guys, I love you guys very much. But I do have to go. Like I said, 3 hours. I'll be back probably Friday or Saturday this week. I try to do it once a week unless we have weird stuff happening. So I'll be back on here on TikTok. I only go live on TikTok now. I used to go live on like 3 different places, but to be on TikTok, you can only go live on TikTok. They don't like you putting stuff on here and other platforms, unless of course they want you to pay for it. So I pay some people for it, but I'm paying a lot of money to get this stuff out on the air for you guys. So that's why I don't like to pay everybody, because everybody wants me to pay them a couple $100 a month to put this on the air. So I put it out for free as much as I can and pay some people to put it out, but I'm not going to pay TikTok because they don't let me say what I want to say. TikTok is a communist platform that is afraid of words. So until they allow me to actually say words, I'm not paying them anything. They should pay me to keep the people on their platform, right? All right, guys, I love you guys very much, and I'll be back. If you guys have questions, you could always email me with questions or go on here, follow here on Merlin and Maeve, or follow me, Leonard O'Neill, on Merlin and Maeve, or follow Brooke O'Neill on Merlin and on TikTok, or Merlin and Maeve on Facebook. My name on Facebook, Merlin, and we're on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, We Are 8. I don't know where else. Snapchat. I post videos there. But you can message me on Instagram or on Messenger on Facebook, or send us an email with a question. We'll answer your questions as long as it's not, if it's too much, then we'll have to start charging you for our time. But we try to answer as much. When I go live, I try to give you as much as I can for free, right? Try to give you guys all this information. You can buy it on my book, get it on Kindle for $3.99, $4.99, listen to it for free right up here on this podcast for free. You just have to spend the time. You can listen to me. There's probably almost 1 million hours now. I talk about that. I even interpret Bibles for you there, right? All right, guys, I love you very much. Have a great day. I hope to see you next time when I'm live. Just, hit that thing, follow us, and then next time we go live, you'll get a notification, and you can pop back in and ask questions. Write down your questions that you want to ask. Pop back in and ask them. And I always tell people, ask everybody else you listen to the same questions that you ask me, and then figure out which one gives you the right answers, or gives you an actual definitive answer, or just goes humming and hawing and I don't know. Okay.
Send it out.
Send it out.
Spread
all right.
The word.
Yeah, spread the word, right? So, and that's the truth. I've come here to make it comprehensive and to give you guys words in language that you can understand. And I'm coming from the 11th dimension with a spiritual mind. I'm way up here talking to you way down here to give you this information. I'm not just somebody who's here who thinks they know what they're talking about, right? You either know a thing or you don't know a thing. Thinking it is a construct of this illusion. You just have to learn that. This isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. All right, guys, I love you.
Stay curious, question everything.
You hear, Brooke? Stay curious, question everything, right? Remember, religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it. All right? I'll talk to you guys later. I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Have a great day, or morning, or evening, or afternoon, or morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. All right, guys.